Chapter 2378. 2378 Under the catastrophe of the 2378 Tianzi continent. Time passed day by day. In the Dragon Palace, each and every member was improving their strength rapidly. Dragon King, all the resources in the Dragon Palace have been exhausted. Ao Xingmu Ao Yao has successfully obtained the peak combat strength of the Eternal Divine Lord. Now there are 1,500 Eternal Divine Lords in the Dragon Palace and another 3,000 troops with peak combat strength of the Divine Realm. 5 days later, Prime Minister Gui walked out from a corner of the Dragon Palace that Wang Xian had revealed and reported respectfully. 1,500 Masters of the Godly State and 3,000 at the peak of the Godly State. Not bad. Wang Xian revealed a satisfied expression on his face. This force was equivalent to 1/3 of the power of the Blackwater frontline. Even for the entire Shen Heaven domain, it was equivalent to 1/10. 1/10 was not weak at all. One had to know that the Shen Heaven domain was already very powerful when all the citizens were in the army. Furthermore, he was already satisfied with the improvement of the Dragon Palace in such a short period of time. Woo 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 woo. At this moment, an urgent sound rang out, causing Wang Xian to reveal a hint of doubt. It was slightly different from the usual urgent sound of the sea monsters attacking. This sound was even longer. Wang Xian moved his body and immediately flew towards the front of the battle. Ha! When he arrived there, he realized that the front of the city wall was densely packed with people. There were about 10 million of them. Wang Xian revealed a look of surprise and immediately flew forward. On the battlefield there were soldiers fighting each other. There were also countless soldiers gathered here. Clearly something big had happened. The catastrophe of our Tianzi continent is about to arrive. Billions of sea monsters have gathered in the city, in the sky and the federal region. The sea monsters want to take over the land. Although that place is far away from us, there are still eggs in the nest. Once that place is taken over, it will be our turn soon. Now we humans of the Tianzi continent must unite. Today we will bring the soldiers of the Shen Heaven domain to the battlefield. This war is the war of the entire Tianzi continent. Just as Wang Xian flew over, Commander Shen's voice came from the front. The catastrophe is about to erupt? So soon? Wang Xian was astonished. A few days ago they had said something. He didn't expect it to erupt so quickly. The city in the sky, the Federation region, and a part of the Sword domain were considered to be the front line for the Tianzi continent. The front line of the black water here could only be said to be a huge direct current in the underground sea. The ones who were facing the ocean were the city in the sky and the Federation region. The two previous catastrophes had started from there. The catastrophe was a disaster for the entire Heaven Selection continent. No one could avoid it. The Shen Heaven domain couldn't avoid it either. Once the front line was attacked and destroyed, the Shen Heaven domain would be destroyed soon. Guardian Shen, has the catastrophe already erupted? Wang Xian walked to Guardian Shen's side and asked him. Yes. According to the news from the city in the sky and the Federation, 4 to 5 immortal king sea monsters have appeared there. The number of sea monsters gathered there has reached hundreds of billions or even more. According to the 2 records in history, the catastrophe is about to erupt. We, the Shen Heaven realm, must send our experts over. Everyone from the Blackwater front line must be mobilized. Guardian Shen looked at Wang Xian with a face full of worry. Too many people died in every catastrophe. When the second catastrophe broke out, the Tianzi continent even sent out an order to forcefully enlist the troops. All the Eternal Lord level 5 and above went to the battlefield to fight. In that battle, billions of people were killed and injured. Even an immortal king was killed. I'll bring my subordinates over too. Wang Xian's eyes flickered as he said immediately. General Wang, there's no need for that. Guardian Shen was stunned for a moment before he said immediately. If we can't gain experience, how can we improve quickly? Our Dragon Palace army will follow in the name of the Shen Heaven domain. Wang Xian shook his head and said. All right, General Wang, get ready. We'll leave in 2 hours on the war aircraft carrier. Chief Shen did not say anything else. In the face of this calamity, being able to gain a little more strength was a guarantee for the entire Tianzi continent. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head and swept his gaze across the more than 10 million people in front of him. This was only the first batch of people. If there was a crisis ahead, there would be at least a few 100 million more powerhouses who would enter the battlefield or even more. However, this calamity is an opportunity for the Dragon Palace. He mumbled and immediately headed to the resting area of the Dragon Palace's army. With the outbreak of the calamity and the attack of hundreds of millions of sea monsters, with Wang Xian's current level 4 Eternal Lord strength, any sea monsters below level 4 Eternal Lord would be ruled. At that time, an endless stream of aquatic creatures would be ruled and turned into the resources of the Dragon Palace. The members of the Dragon Palace would improve at a terrifying speed. In the end, the Dragon Palace might even be able to produce tens of thousands of Eternal God Lords. He might even step into the Immortal King realm. All members of the Dragon Palace, get ready. Follow me to the battlefield. The next battle will be huge. Wang Xian came to the resting place of the Dragon Palace and shouted softly, "It's the Dragon King." One by one, the members of the Dragon Palace flew over and formed an army in an orderly manner. At the very front, there were 1,500 Eternal God Lords and 3,000 peak Divine Realm warriors behind them. Let's go. He flew into the sky and headed toward the city wall. The members of the Dragon Palace were giving off powerful auras. As the elites of the Dragon Palace, they had been fighting since they were weak. Their murderous aura were even stronger than the army that guarded this place all year round. That's the Dragon Palace army. Don't they only have 500 Eternal God Lords? What's this? So powerful. The ones in front are all God Lords. The cooperation between the experts of the Dragon Palace army is terrifying. The soldiers of the Blackwater front looked at them with surprise. They knew the Dragon Palace army well. A powerful army was made up of more than 500 Eternal Masters. They were all subordinates of General Wang, the new general. It was said that all of them were under General Wang. They didn't expect that there were more than 1,500 Eternal Masters and 3,000 Peak God Realm Masters. There were only about 4,000 of them in the entire Blackwater front lines. Commander Xian and the rest looked over and their eyes were filled with shock. They looked at Wang Xian who was in front of them and their eyes were sparkling. "General Wang, I didn't expect you to have so many powerful subordinates. Thank you for your help this time." Commander Xian walked over and thanked Wang Xian. "We are all on the same side. You don't have to be so polite." Wang Xian smiled at the few generals. Good. This time, we will set out to show the might of our Xian Heaven domain and kill the endless sea monsters." Commander Xian laughed out loud and shouted with a face full of fighting spirit. Chapter 2379. 2379-2379, the four great powers had gathered. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go. In the sky above the Blackwater front lines, two incomparably huge monsters were floating in the sky. Each of these huge monsters was several million kilometers in size. They were made of steel, and on top of them were incomparably powerful arrays. All sorts of patterns were densely covered. In the front there were terrifying cannon barrels. The largest cannon barrel was at least 2,000 meters in size, and it was incomparably dark. It was no exaggeration to say that such a powerful cannon barrel could destroy a sea monster at the peak of the Divine Lord realm. This was the aircraft carrier of the Tianzi continent. Not only could it sail in the ocean but it could also fly in the sky. One by one the soldiers flew onto the aircraft carrier and landed neatly on the deck. The two gigantic aircraft carriers carried over 10 million people. Wang Xian led the members of the Dragon Palace and landed on a spot on the deck. Boom, boom, boom. The aircraft carrier was activated. Standing on the deck, he could see that there were countless people gathered around the front line of the Blackwater. Those were the families of the soldiers at the front line of the Blackwater. They knew about the operation this time. With the arrival of the catastrophe, how many soldiers would survive this time? No one knew. I hope this catastrophe can end as soon as possible. Otherwise, I wonder how many more soldiers will die. Commander Xian said with a slight sigh. This time even he didn't dare to be sure that he could survive. Although he was a descendant of the mysterious heaven, the descendant of the mysterious heaven also bore more responsibilities. Historically, 60% of the descendants of the mysterious heaven died on the battlefield. Wang Xian stood at the side and crossed his arms indifferently. "General Wang, the battlefield is very tragic. Be careful when the time comes." Commander Xian looked at the young Wang Xian and reminded him. "I have led my men to fight until today. I still want to destroy the sea monsters under the Tianzi continent and unify the sea." Wang Xian smiled faintly. He wasn't too worried. Good. Since ancient times heroes are born young. Commander Xian and the few generals beside him were slightly stunned. Then they burst into laughter. No one in the Tianzi continent dared to think of destroying the underground sea monsters and unifying the ocean. Regardless of whether it was a joke or nonsense, this courage was not something that an ordinary person could compare to. Around them, some soldiers from the front line of the Blackwater looked at Wang Xian with a hint of respect in their eyes. His strength seems to be much more terrifying than when I first saw him. At the back, Xian Umbrella's eyes were flickering as she muttered to herself. The speed of the aircraft carrier was very fast. It was even faster than the speed of an expert at the peak of the Master God realm. During the journey she teleported 5 times. In just 10 minutes she reached the sky above a city. On the left side of the sky, there was an incomparably majestic continent. It was the city in the sky. The area of the city in the sky was extremely terrifying. It carried 50 to 60 billion people. There were a total of 18 cities. The aircraft carrier arrived at the front of a coastal city. It was a coastal steel city with an extremely dense steel aura. The city below was filled with buildings in all directions. It was filled with an incomparably heavy feeling. There were not many people in the city. There were not many pedestrians on the streets. At this moment they were all lined up with silver-white war chariots. On the war chariots the cannons were aimed at the ocean. At the back there was a huge silver-white sports car that was at least 10,000 meters tall. It looked extremely terrifying. At the front there was a huge steel wall. The entire steel wall could not be seen. In fact, this steel wall was 30 million kilometers long and 10,000 meters tall. Within the entire steel wall, there were huge cannon barrels inlaid. It was completely a war wall. Magnificent, heavy and terrifying. This was the natural selection steel wall that humans had built here after the second catastrophe erupted. It was also known as the Wall of Protection. In the sky, fighter jets flew past one after another. All soldiers, fly to the Wall of Protection. Commander Xian immediately ordered everyone. Yes, Commander. All the soldiers nodded immediately. All generals, head to the command center. Commander Xian looked at Wang Xian and the rest and said, yes. Wang Xian and the rest nodded and followed behind as they flew towards the center of the Wall of Protection. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the sound of shuttling could be heard from the sky. Wang Xian turned his head around and saw at least 20 million people standing on sharp swords as they flew over in a mighty manner. Every single one of them exuded a strong killing intent. Those were the people from the sword domain. Everyone should be here. Commander Xian said faintly and landed directly in the center of the Wall of Protection. General. At the entrance of the metal-made command room, the 2 soldiers at the entrance immediately saluted and shouted loudly. Commander Xian and the other generals returned the salute and walked in. Wang Xian followed them in. This time there were 15 generals from the Mysterious Sky Territory and Wang Xian. The generals from the Mysterious Sky Territory are here. In the high-tech command room, there were already more than 50 people sitting at a round table. Upon seeing their arrival, an old man standing in the middle immediately stood up and said with a smile. The old man was the highest commander of the Federation and the leader of the royal family of the Federation. Commander. Commander Xian smiled and nodded at the old man. His gaze swept across the group of people at the round table. Generals of Xiantian, please take a seat. The people from the sword domain will be here immediately. The old man smiled and nodded his head to signal for them to come over. Wang Xian followed the generals and sat at the round table. When Wang Xian sat down he noticed that many people were looking at him. Hello General Wang. The generals from the Battle Techniques aristocratic clan greeted Wang Xian with a friendly expression. They had already learned about the Star Beast planet. They also knew that the other party had given the invincible Battle Techniques an Immortal King Level 3 cub. No matter what, if this person had any help from the Battle Technique family, they would definitely not reject it. Even their ancestor would not reject it. Greetings, generals of the Battle Technique family. Wang Xian smiled and nodded at them. I heard that General Wang is very strong. This time around he killed 5 to 6 peak Master God Realm experts from the Star Beast Tower. Suddenly, a dozen pairs of eyes from the side stared at him and asked calmly. The people from the Star Beast Tower want to kill me. Naturally I want to kill them. If it were the people from the city in the sky they would do the same. Wang Xian glanced at the dozen of them with a deeper meaning. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. A hint of coldness flashed in the eyes of the dozen of them. This time, none of the dozen or so experts from the Star Beast Tower who had gone to the Star Beast planet returned. After learning that Wang Xian had killed several experts at the peak of the Master God realm from the Star Beast Tower, they understood that City Lord He and the rest had been killed by this fellow. However, even if they knew, they could only pretend that they didn't know, especially when this calamity erupted. Chapter 2380. 2380 was guarding. We are all here. What's the situation now? Just as Wang Xian finished his sentence, a group of people walked in from the door of the command room. Each of them carried a sword on their back. They looked like sharp swords. Generals of the sword domain, please take a seat. The highest commander of the Federation gestured for them to take a seat. The people from the sword domain sat down. Everyone quieted down and their gazes landed on the old man in unison. The old man waved his arm, and images appeared in the center of the round table. In the images, countless sea monsters gathered together. There was no killing or roaring between them, and it was eerily quiet. At a glance, there was no end in sight. The images revolved, and the endless sea monsters lined up for tens of millions of kilometers. Within the round table, everyone's pupils shrank when they saw this scene. Tianzhe continent's second calamity had happened 500,000 years ago, and none of the people here had been born yet. Now seeing this terrifying scene, they were all shocked. The sea monsters have already gathered at the 10 million kilometers area of the Wall of Protection. Behind them are the undying God King sea monsters. As for the numbers, we can't estimate. We only know that there are close to 10 billion demigod-level cannon fodder in the front row. The highest commander said solemnly, "Our 4 God Kings are floating above the underground sea, locking onto the undying God King sea monsters. We don't know the exact situation, but with the war breaking out, the God Kings can't support us. We need to defend the wall now. Also, everyone be prepared to get the soldiers behind us to support. The mysterious God King has already set up a large teleportation formation. At a certain level, the entire population will be soldiers." The highest commander said, slowly standing up, clenching his fists. At that point, the human casualties would not only be in the billions, it could even be in the tens of billions. This was a race war. Right now, the other party is going to attack at any time. We need to immediately allocate the defending area. The entire area of the Wall of Protection is 3,000 kilometers. There are 75 generals present, which is 75 peak God Lord experts. The few array generals of the mysterious sky domain, your strength is among the top amongst us. Once you set up the array, you can even threaten a threat of undying God King. How about you spread out? The Supreme Commander looked at Commander Xian and the others. All right. Commander Xian nodded. In the Battle of Protection, the array masters of the mysterious sky territory were many times more useful than ordinary God Lords. Since that's the case, I'll start assigning each general to guard the place. The Supreme Commander swept his gaze across everyone and waved his arm, causing an image to float in the middle. The 3,000-kilometer Wall of Protection was divided into 70 regions, with 70 generals leading their legions to defend. 5 generals leading their soldiers were ready to support the 70 regions at any time. Other than a few generals from the mysterious sky territory who were scattered, the rest of the positions were basically close to each other. The distribution is basically done. The specific distribution of the next 4 forces can be arranged by yourselves. I would like to remind everyone that this is a disaster for our Tianzi continent. We cannot afford to lose it. If the Eternal Lord Sea Monster refuses to flee, then we can only fight to the death. The Supreme Commander clenched his fists and said, "Don't worry, Commander. We understand all of this." Everyone nodded heavily. If the Eternal Lord Sea Monster refused to flee after being heavily injured, then the humans could not flee either until they died in battle. All generals get ready. I will be standing here in the command room to conduct the command. Everyone please listen to my orders. The old man placed his arms on the table and shouted softly, "Yes." All the generals saluted and immediately walked out. There are 4 generals in the Xian Heaven domain who are about to be defeated. I will lead a group of soldiers and be ready to provide support at any time. The other 9 positions are linked together. General Wang and the Dragon Palace army will be on the left. General Xian, you will be on guard. Commander Xian instructed Wang Xian and the rest one by one. Commander Xian, give us 2 places for the Dragon Palace army. Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before speaking. No, each army will guard a radius of 420,000 kilometers. The Dragon Palace has too few people. They will guard 2 areas that are more than 800,000 kilometers away. You guys won't be able to guard them. Commander Xian shook his head immediately. It's not a big problem. I'm not the only one with the peak combat strength of a god lord under me. Wang Xian shook his head and said with a smile. Is that so? Commander Xian was slightly shocked. The rest of the generals were also filled with astonishment. Initially, the Xian Heaven domain did not include Wang Xian's Dragon Palace army. Now that Wang Xian had to guard 2 places, it was undoubtedly a great relief for them. Moreover, Wang Xian had more than 1,500 divine masters in his hands. The number of divine masters was 1/3 of their number. It was not a big problem for him to guard 2 places. All right, inform me immediately if there's any danger. Commander Xian nodded his head. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head. Lead the soldiers to guard the wall of protection immediately. Commander Xian looked at the endless sea in front of him and shouted in a deep voice. Yes. Wang Xian and the rest immediately. All members of the Dragon Palace, follow me. He shouted at the members of the Dragon Palace who were guarding the wall. A group of experts from the Dragon Palace immediately followed behind and flew toward the place where Wang Xian and the rest were guarding. General Wang is really not simple. He has so many Divine Lord experts under him, but they are in an orderly manner as if they are a whole. Moreover, they have already formed an army formation in their battle. This is rare. The few generals looked over and their eyes flickered. After reaching the Divine Lord realm, most of them fought on their own. Even if they worked closely together, they could not be compared to the army formation. However, General Wang's subordinates were a whole and each had their own duties. It was obvious that they were well trained. Guard this area of 80 kilometers. Ao Xingmu and I are in the center while the rest are behind us. Wang Xian stood where he needed to guard and immediately gave the order. It's the Dragon King. Everyone responded in a deep voice. Reporting to the general. The weapons controller of the Federation's Wall of Protection, Ling Chenyan, is here to report. At this moment, a woman in a military uniform walked over and bowed respectfully. Introduce me to the weapons on the Wall of Protection. Wang Xian looked at the female officer and said to her. Yes. The female officer looked at the young general in surprise and immediately brought him to the interior of the Wall of Protection. There were many powerful weapons embedded in the interior of the Wall of Protection. General, the strongest weapon is the Water Energy Wave Cannon. It can kill level 9 sea monsters of the Eternal Lord. There are 3 of them in our area. Apart from that, there are 180 weapons at the core to fight against the Master of the Eternal God level. The intensive bombardment can defeat hundreds of Master of the Eternal God level sea monsters. There are 100,000 weapons to fight against all kinds of weapons at the Master of the Eternal God level. If all the ammunition is poured out, we can kill hundreds of millions of Master of the Eternal God level sea monsters. The female officer brought Wang Xian in and introduced them one by one. Chapter 2381. 2381. The 2381 apocalypse began. The Tianzi continent used to be a technological planet. The weapons it possessed could kill a peak-stage Eternal God Lord expert. Although there weren't many such strategic weapons, there were plenty of other weapons. The Federation royal family currently focused on technology. Even if all their ammunition poured in, they could still wipe out billions or even tens of billions of sea monsters. Naturally, there were high-tech weapons on the Wall of Protection. This weapon was controlled by the general who was in charge of this area. All the NCOs who were in charge of controlling the weapons had to listen to their orders. Wang Xian listened to Ling Chenyan's introduction and nodded his head slightly. Wang Xian didn't plan to use these technological weapons for the time being. However, if he was really under pressure, he wouldn't just leave them there and not use them. Oh, General Wang is actually adjacent to me. If we are in danger, General, please lend a hand. Just as Wang Xian followed Ling Chenyan to the end of the line where he was guarding, a voice was suddenly heard. Wang Xian raised his head and saw an old man with a few subordinates staring at him. His eyes were sparkling. City in the sky. Wang Xian looked at their clothes and narrowed his eyes slightly. Our matter will be settled once this calamity is over. He stared at the old man indifferently without any scruples. The expression of the old man in the city in the sky changed slightly. The smile on his face instantly turned into a smile. Umph. He snorted coldly and didn't say another word with a cold expression. Go back. Wang Xian glanced at them indifferently and spoke to Ling Qinyan, who was beside him. Ling Qinyan felt the stifling atmosphere and her face turned pale. She nodded her head hurriedly. At the same time, his heart was filled with doubt and shock. This young general seemed to have a grudge with the city in the sky. Damn it, this fellow is actually so arrogant. City Lord Liang Wei. The few people behind the old man saw this scene and revealed furious expressions. They roared coldly. However, before he could finish his words, City Lord Liang waved his hand and stopped them. The officer at the side lowered his head and didn't dare to get involved. You guys take a look here. City Lord Liang said with a gloomy expression and immediately left. Bus. City Lord Liang arrived at the top of the protective wall in an area guarded by the city in the sky. His lips moved slightly and soon, old men appeared in front of them one by one. What's wrong, old Liang? The commander of the city in the sky looked at City Lord Liang in front of him and asked faintly. Commander, that Wang Xian from the mysterious sky territory is a little arrogant. He killed so many of us. City Lord Liang looked at the commander with an unwilling expression. His strength has already reached the peak of the Divine Lord realm. The commander of the city in the sky frowned. With the strength of a peak Divine Lord, it would be difficult to kill him. Commander, if we use some of the treasures in the city in the sky, we might be able to. City Lord Liang said coldly. If we use them, we will be able to kill the other party. Then what? We have offended the mysterious sky territory and now? The commander looked ahead and shook his head. He then asked, You met that brat. What did he say? He said that he will settle the score with Sky City after this. City Lord, he said with a dark expression. Humph. The expression of the commander of Sky City also turned sullen. However, what could they do now? The other party was already at the peak of the Divine Lord realm. They couldn't even kill the Star Beast Tower. Could they? Perhaps they could. However, would the Xian Heaven Domain allow them to take action? If they really angered Shen Tianzi, their Sky City wouldn't be able to withstand the fury of the other party. Furthermore, their main objective was to obtain the formation in Wang Xian's hands. Unless... The eyes of the commander of the Sky City suddenly flickered. Unless we inform another faction that he possesses a powerful formation and join forces with them, it will be too difficult to kill him. He said coldly, but soon after he shook his head. Let's not bother about that fellow for now. Let's focus on dealing with the calamity in front of us. Yes. City Lord Liang was a little unwilling, but there was nothing he could do. The other party was not the level 8 Master of God that they had received information about. Instead, he was at the peak of the Master of God. The difference between the two levels was like heaven and earth. The sea monsters are moving towards us. Everyone get ready. At this moment, a majestic voice suddenly rang in everyone's mind. At the place where the Dragon Palace was guarding, Wang Xian's pupils constricted slightly and he immediately floated in the sky. Disciples of the Dragon Palace, get ready. Wang Xian immediately ordered loudly. Roar, roar, roar. Roars were emitted from the members of the Dragon Palace and reverberated within a radius of tens of millions of kilometers. The high fighting spirit shocked everyone. Get ready, kill. Kill the endless sea monsters. We humans of the natural selection continent have fought against the sea monsters for thousands of years and have never been afraid. Roars filled with fighting spirit rang out one after another. Kill. Following that, waves of terrifying killing intent came from the surroundings. Wang Xian's figure moved and flew out of the city wall to stand on the surface of the sea. Roar, roar, roar. The members of the Dragon Palace immediately followed behind. They entered the sea beneath Wang Xian. What is the Dragon Palace army doing? Ling Qinyan was stunned when she saw the Dragon Palace army entering the ocean. The ocean was the territory of the sea monsters. When they entered the ocean, it was to avoid the enemy's weakness and throw away their advantage. They could stand on the wall of protection and fight. The wall of protection was built by the 4 godly monarchs with the help of all the resources in the Tianzi continent. Shen Tianzi and godly monarchs had set up powerful arrays on it. Even the sea monsters at the peak of the godly monarch realm would take a long time to break through. They could stand on the wall and launch long-range attacks. Once they entered the ocean, they would lose this advantage completely. However, she could not say anything. The other party was an expert at the peak of the godly monarch realm. He was the general of the Tianzi continent, the general of the natural selection humans. She didn't dare to disobey the general's orders. I hope nothing bad will happen here. Ling Chenyan murmured. Why did General Wang of the mysterious Sky Territory lead his subordinates directly into the ocean? At this moment, the Supreme Commander in the command center frowned. In the command center he could see every corner of the city. He could give emergency orders at any time, but if the Dragon Palace army entered the ocean, he wouldn't be able to see what was happening inside. Commander Xian, where is the army of the Dragon Palace? The Supreme Commander immediately transmitted his voice to Commander Xian. I will keep an eye on the army of the Dragon Palace. Nothing will happen. Commander Xian was very confident in the army of the Dragon Palace. He had seen how terrifying the army of the Dragon Palace was. They were good at fighting in the water. Even the Eternal God Lord could coordinate perfectly. At least 2 peak God Lords were guarding the city. If the Dragon Palace could still be breached, then the entire human race would be in danger. Chapter 2382. 2382 In the Battle of 2382. Roar, roar, roar. We will not retreat until our deaths. We will protect the first line of defense. In the ocean in front of the wall of defense, countless sea monsters surged over. The sea monsters were densely packed, and they gave off a terrifying aura of desolation. In front of this terrifying aura of desolation, even eternal God Lords had grim expressions. The roar of the Supreme Commander resounded in everyone's ears. 50 to 60 million soldiers stood on top of the wall of protection, holding their weapons tightly as they waited for the arrival of the sea monsters. At the 51st and 52nd checkpoint, Wang Xian was floating on the surface of the sea as he stared coldly at the sea monsters in front of him. Countless sea monsters had already appeared in his line of sight. Under the impact of the sea monsters, the seawater surged violently and set off huge waves. The army of the sea monsters was endless. It's about to start. Wang Xian looked ahead as his eyes sparkled. His body moved and landed directly in the ocean. Dragon Palace, Dragon Gate, appear. He growled and an incomparably huge Dragon Gate appeared behind him. The Dragon Gate was 5,000 meters tall and 20,000 meters wide. It emitted powerful dragon might. All members of the Dragon Palace, get ready. Wang Xian looked at the sea monster that was getting closer and roared in a low voice. It's the Dragon King. Ao Xingmu, the Berserk Dragon Seed, and the Dragon Guard were in the lead. The Starwood Dragon Seed was behind them. Behind them were the members of the Heavenly Eye Arrow Division, the Dolphin Support members, and the 8-limbed Demonic Shah. The last position was occupied by the 3,000 warriors of the Dragon Palace who were at the peak of the godly state. As the Dragon Palace guarded an area of more than 800,000 kilometers, the distance between each member was extremely far. However, even so, the Dragon Palace still had a team of 100 people. Wang Xian stood at the front position. He would personally take action in this battle. There are all the cannon fodder of the demigod level at the front. It's perfect. All of them can be used as resources for the improvement of the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian's eyes shone with a terrifying light. Roar, 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 roar. The roars and roars got closer and closer. Soon, endless sea monsters arrived in front of the Dragon Palace. Very good. Dragon's might roll. Wang Xian licked his lips and his body trembled. Boom. A terrifying dragon's might covered a radius of 500 kilometers. With his strength, all sea monsters within a radius of 500 kilometers that were lower than the level 4 Eternal Lord would have to submit to him. Right in front of him, more than 100,000 sea monsters trembled slightly and charged toward Wang Xian at an even more terrifying speed. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. They passed through Wang Xian's body and charged directly into the east gate of the Dragon Palace. All the sea monsters successfully charged into the east gate of the Dragon Palace. However, the moment they entered, they died immediately. The disciples in the Dragon Palace immediately put away the corpses and threw them into the dragon transformation pool. Kill? At this moment, the sounds of the members of the Dragon Palace fighting could be heard in the surroundings. With a radius of more than 800,000 kilometers, Wang Xian's rule could only cover an area of 500 kilometers. It was only 1,000th of the area. The rest of the area still needed the members of the Dragon Palace to deal with. But when the hundreds of thousands of sea monsters became the resources of the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian moved his body and came to the side once again. In an instant, the sea monsters within a radius of 500 kilometers were conquered and rushed toward the Dragon Palace crazily. His speed was very fast. In 20 seconds he could cover a radius of 500 kilometers. In particular, some of the more powerful sea monsters behind him were also within the coverage area. In the surrounding area, there were more than 1,500 eternal divine masters and 3,000 experts at the peak of the godly state of the Dragon Palace. Their killing speed was even faster than Wang Xian's ruling speed. Every second, tens of thousands of sea monsters were killed by them. The corpses of the sea monsters that were killed were collected by the strange demon directly. The battle in front of them did not require the strange demon to make a move. Instead, they collected the corpses and threw them into the Dragon Palace quickly. At this moment, in the Dragon Transformation Pool located in the Dragon Palace, the members of the Dragon Palace were soaking in the Dragon Transformation Pool and improving rapidly. As long as they had the resources, the members of the Dragon Palace wouldn't have any bottlenecks. They could quickly advance to the Eternal God Lord realm. The first wave of attacks were all sea monsters below the Eternal God Lord realm. This wasn't difficult for the Dragon Palace at all. In fact, these sea monsters were the resources of the Dragon Palace. In just half an hour, more than 4,000 members of the Dragon Palace had killed hundreds of millions of sea monsters. These hundreds of millions of sea monsters could at least give birth to dozens of eternal god lords for the Dragon Palace. Compared to the silent battles at the bottom of the sea, the sounds of battle around the wall of protection were endless. There were no casualties in the other places that were guarded. Humans relied on the protection of the wall of protection to kill the sea monsters when they were hundreds of kilometers away. In the ocean ahead, the seawater turned red, and the smell of blood soared into the sky. The battle continued. Soon an hour had passed. The number of sea monsters killed by the humans had reached at least 10 billion. After an hour of continuous attacks, the faces of many godly state experts turned pale. They kept swallowing pills to recover. However, the number of sea monsters did not decrease at all. On the wall of protection, all the generals looked ahead with expressionless faces. The war had just begun. The last war lasted for a whole month. Time passed slowly. Every warrior was a little numb from the battle. Everyone's eyes were blood red. They were mechanically releasing terrifying attacks. Any one of their attacks would be able to hit the sea monsters. However, there were simply too many sea monsters. In the beginning, the humans were still able to kill them from over 100 kilometers away. However, after 5 hours, the sea monsters were already close to 10 kilometers away from the wall of protection. 10 kilometers was already very close. The Eternal God Lord sea monsters could already ignore this distance. After 6 hours of fighting, the sea ahead was completely blood red. At least 60 to 70 billion sea monsters had died at the hands of humans. However, everyone knew that the sea monsters in front were only cannon fodder. All soldiers get ready. An Eternal God Lord level sea monster has appeared behind us. We can launch a round of cannonball attacks. At this moment, the voice of the Supreme Commander entered everyone's ears. The bombardment of the cannonballs could give the humans a temporary respite. Fire the cannonballs. The generals did not hesitate. The cannonballs on the wall of protection were enough to sustain 3 hours of continuous bombardment. By firing the cannonballs for an hour, the soldiers would be able to recuperate for some time. Fire the cannonballs. Boom boom boom. When the order for the shelling sounded, cannon barrels slowly extended out from the wall of defense. Using the God Stone as energy, terrifying flames, blisters, ice arrows and golden rays covered the sky and covered the earth. It was densely packed and mighty. Chapter 2383. 2383 in the Battle of 2383. Boom, boom, boom. In front of the wall of protection, a terrifying explosion sounded. All kinds of colorful shells shot into the underground sea. The terrifying energy formed a mushroom cloud on the surface of the sea. Roar, roar, roar. Miserable roars came from the bottom of the sea. Looking from afar, one could see rows and rows of cannons pouring into the sea from the wall of protection. This scene was extremely shocking. However, at one corner of the wall of protection, there was no pouring of ammunition nor the bombardment of high-tech cannons. From time to time, huge waves came from the surface of the sea. One could see that there was a battle happening below. Are the sea monsters of the Eternal Lord level about to appear? Wang Xian was floating in the middle of the sea, commanding a group of sea monsters to enter the Dragon Palace. In more than 6 hours, Wang Xian had managed to control at least 1 billion sea monsters. The members of the Dragon Palace around him had killed at least 2 billion sea monsters. It was not an exaggeration to say that the Dragon Palace had the highest number of sea monsters. With so many resources, the Dragon Palace should be able to increase the number of Eternal Masters by 700 to 800. Wang Xian mumbled. Although they had killed a lot of sea monsters, they were all below the level of Eternal Masters. The dragon blood transformed from the sea monsters of the Eternal Masters could not be compared to those of the godly state. The resources transformed from a sea monster of the first level of the Eternal Masters were about 50 times more than those of the sea monsters at the peak of the godly state. Not to mention the sea monsters of the Eternal Masters who were of a higher level. There were not many sea monsters at the peak of the godly state at the beginning of the battle. Most of them were below the level of 7 wisps of divine fire. Roar, roar, roar. At this moment, violent roars were heard. Woo woo woo. In the next moment, waves of black poison attacked them. From above, one could see that a large amount of seawater was corroded by the terrifying poison. The seawater instantly turned black and red. They were spreading toward them at a terrifying speed. Black poison eels, it's the black poison eels. At this moment, on the wall of protection, a general roared. The black poison eels were a large race of the underground sea. They occupied an area of the underground sea, and generally the black poison eels had more than 6 wisps of divine fire. Even the eternal god lord level black poison eels were numerous. There were all kinds of sea monsters that had just attacked and now they were attacking as one race. Is this the entire group of black poison eels? There must be at least tens of billions of them. This is just the beginning. In the commander's office, the supreme commander's face was slightly embarrassed. These black poison eels were 10 times more difficult to deal with than the 60 to 70 billion sea monsters from before. He stood up slowly and stared at the scene in front of him with a solemn face. The stronger sea monsters are finally here. At the bottom of the sea, Wang Xian saw a school of black poisonous eels that were dozens of meters in size in front of him. Instead, a smile appeared on his face. As long as they were sea monsters below level 4 of the Eternal Lord, they would be easy pickings if they were to charge at him. Wang Xian really hoped that there would be millions of level 3 sea monsters of the Eternal Lord charging at him. Then the Dragon Palace would receive a terrifying upgrade. Bus. Wang Xian moved his body and met the group of black poisonous eels directly. His dragon aura covered the entire area. Boom, boom, boom. The black poisonous eels within a radius of 500 kilometers trembled slightly. Under Wang Xian's control, they flew directly into the Dragon Palace. There were also a few Eternal Lord level eels among them. The rule this time was equivalent to the results of his 10 minutes earlier. Following that, Wang Xian ruled at a terrifying speed again and again, turning them into the resources of the Dragon Palace. At this moment, the Dragon Transformation Pool, which was 100 kilometers in size, was already filled with half of its blood. On the heads of the 9 dragon pillars, streams of dragon blood flowed down continuously. The number of members of the Dragon Palace in the Dragon Transformation Pool was increasing. From time to time, there would be members making breakthroughs. Although the group of black poisonous eels was extremely terrifying, their levels were not high in Wang Xian's opinion. The strongest one was around level 4 of the Eternal Lord. They were completely defenseless against Wang Xian. However, Wang Xian also discovered a problem. Even if they were facing a level 4 sea monster of the Eternal Lord, it would not run away even if it could not defeat Wang Xian at his peak combat strength. It would fight with its life on the line, which astonished Wang Xian greatly. As expected of a catastrophe, these sea monsters are basically fighting with their lives on the line. Is this the order of the immortal king sea monster? Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. At the position above, the bombardment of the cannonballs had ended. The human soldiers continued to fight. The group of black poisonous eels was getting closer and closer to the wall of protection. At this time, the human soldiers had to fly into the sky to welcome them. Casualties began to appear. The thing that the human experts were most unwilling to see happened. Even if the Eternal God Lord level sea monsters were killed, they would not escape. This made many people's faces extremely grave. The fierce battle began. The entire wall of protection was filled with roars and roars. The 51st and 52nd place was much calmer compared to the surroundings. Time slowly passed. This battle lasted for a full 10 hours. Some of the sea monster races at the rear are in some chaos. They should be able to rest for a few hours. In the main command room, the highest commander received the news and sighed slowly. The battle had already lasted for 16 to 17 hours. In these 16 to 17 hours, 200 to 300,000 humans had died. This number was nothing to the sea monsters. However, this was all based on the foundation of the humans. Once the time came, the human casualties would increase by hundreds to thousands of times. Fortunately, there were natural enemies among the sea monsters. There would be some chaos that would allow the human soldiers to catch their breath for a few hours. It stopped. At this moment, at the area 51 to 52 guarded by the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian looked at the sea monsters that had suddenly stopped in front of him and was slightly stunned. Feeling the chaos ahead, he had a slight realization. There was a problem with the sea monsters. I have to admit that there are really many powerful sea monsters. Just the Dragon Palace alone has killed more than 2,000 Eternal Lord sea monsters. There are only a few in other places. There are also more than 10,000 Eternal Lord level sea monsters of the black poison eel race. Wang Xian thought to himself. The Dragon Palace's harvest this time was extremely huge. It was estimated that they would be able to add at least 2,000 Eternal Masters of the Dragon Palace. The more I fight, the stronger I become. If I can accept this calamity, the Dragon Palace's strength will be comparable to the 4 major forces. Of course, there is a prerequisite. I have to upgrade one level too. Wang Xian stared ahead, his eyes shining brightly. If he wanted to advance, he would have to devour more than 10 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm. A Master God level 9 sea monster would require 500 to 600 of them. It's not impossible. He thought to himself as he scanned his surroundings. Strange demon clan, go and collect the corpses around you. He ordered immediately. Chapter 2384. 2384 swallowed the Netherworld sea monster. It's the Dragon King. Ao Yao and the others responded. More than 200 strange demons that had turned into dragon-type spiky dragons did not attack. Strange demons and the others were not good at group battles. They were good at single-point explosive attacks. They were good at assassinations. Although they could not fight 3 levels higher, they had a high chance of instantly killing existences 2 levels higher than them. This was also a very terrifying point. The group of strange demons moved and immediately flew towards their surroundings. The battlefield in the surroundings was not as easy as the one in the Dragon Palace. All the sea monsters that they had killed had sunk into the sea. There was no time for them to obtain the spoils of war. The strange demons could have gone to other places to retrieve the corpses. It was a huge profit. Ao Yao left with them. Wang Xian flew out from the bottom of the sea and landed on the city wall. General, are you and your soldiers all right? Ling Chenyan walked over immediately and asked worriedly. After more than 10 hours of battle, they were the only ones who didn't activate their weapons. It's still relatively easy. Wang Xian said indifferently. General Wang, let's take advantage of this time to come over and have a talk. At this moment, Commander Xian's voice came from the right. Wang Xian looked over and his figure moved. He teleported to their side instantly. The rest of the generals were also gathered together. General Wang, how is it? Commander Xian and the rest looked at him and asked. It's still relatively easy at the moment. Let us know if you need reinforcements. Wang Xian said calmly. The rest of the generals were stunned for a moment before a bitter expression appeared on their faces. General Wang, your subordinates are really fierce. We have already lost a few Eternal Lord experts just from the start. One of the generals shook his head and said helplessly. We have to hold on at this moment. If we really need the second wave of people to arrive, there will be even more casualties. A general looked at the ocean in front of him. There, the roars of sea monsters could be heard from time to time. 2 huge sea monster races were confronting each other. Obviously, these 2 natural enemy races had disrupted the rhythm of the sea monsters. This kind of situation had happened during the first and second catastrophes. It could not be maintained for long. Soon the other party might continue to attack. It's going to rain. At this moment, a general saw the dark cloud surging over and said indifferently, let's go. Soon a rainbow will appear. The only female general smiled. The rest of them smiled and left. Wang Xian returned to Area 51 to 52. Reporting to Dragon King, our strange demon clan has discovered a strange situation at the bottom of the sea. At this moment, Ao Yao's figure suddenly appeared beside Wang Xian. Doubt appeared on his face. What's the situation? Dragon King, there's a strange sea monster below that is devouring the corpses of the slain sea monsters. It's evolving at a terrifying speed. Ao Yao reported. A strange sea monster is devouring corpses. Wang Xian was slightly shocked. Let's go, bring me there to have a look. Without any hesitation, he flew straight into the ocean. Splash. After entering the bottom of the ocean, Ao Yao brought Wang Xian to the deepest part of the ocean. The bottom of the ocean here, even the most marginal area, was at least 1,000,000 kilometers deep. During the period of the catastrophe, no one dared to go deep into the depths of the ocean. The distance of 100 kilometers was not very far. When Wang Xian was about to reach the bottom of the sea, he saw a monster that looked like black mud not far away from him. It was devouring the body of a sea monster. As it was devouring, its body size was getting bigger and bigger. These sea monsters seemed to have no bones. It looked a little strange. Devouring the Netherworld sea monster. Level 9 Godly State, Level 8 Baby of the Eternal Lord. A piece of information appeared in Wang Xian's mind. He was slightly shocked. It's actually a Level 8 Baby of the Eternal Lord. It has such a high level. Wang Xian revealed a hint of surprise on his face. His body trembled slightly as he directly ruled over it. Holding it in his hand, he sized it up and didn't find anything strange. Dragon King, there are more in other places. There are many of these sea monsters. It's so many that it's terrifying. Ao Yao said from the side. His body moved and he immediately flew forward. As expected, there were many of these sea monsters in the underground sea. There were more than 100,000 of them in this area alone. These sea monsters are improving very quickly. However, no matter how fast they are, they still have to digest the energy in their bodies. It's impossible for them to improve to level 8 of the Eternal Lord. Wang Xian frowned slightly. Go. At this moment, Wang Xian felt his powerful sea monster locking onto him. He looked over and saw a mermaid sea monster at the peak of the Eternal Lord staring at him. Boom. The next moment, the mermaid sea monster attacked Wang Xian directly. Retreat. Wang Xian frowned. He moved his body and flew straight to the surface of the sea. The sea monster did not chase after him when it saw him escaping. This made him frown slightly. What were these sea monsters doing? Were they plotting something? Did the sea monsters have such high intelligence? Wang Xian frowned. All soldiers get ready. He rushed out of the surface of the sea and the voice of the highest commander entered everyone's ears. Wang Xian looked into the depths of the sea and saw huge waves surging over from a few hundred kilometers away. As they got closer, the huge waves grew higher and higher. When they reached about 100 kilometers away, the huge waves had already reached a height of a few thousand meters. Among the huge waves, there were numerous huge sea monsters hiding. The first wave of the wall of protection is activated. A cold voice sounded. On the wall of protection, there was a layer of water blue light. Prepare to face the enemy. A furious roar was heard. Kill? Wang Xian saw the sea monsters in front of him and a strong glow shot out from his eyes. He let out a loud roar. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One by one, the members of the Dragon Palace flew into the ocean. They stood in the middle of the ocean floor and stared at the sea monsters charging at them. They would tell this group of sea monsters whose territory the ocean belonged to. Fight. The sea monsters of the two races charged at them. Their strength was slightly stronger than the previous wave of sea monsters. However, it was only slightly stronger. It didn't affect the members of the Dragon Palace at all. Now, once the members of the Dragon Palace reached the level of Eternal Lord, most of them could fight against the level 3 or even level 4 sea monsters of the Eternal Lord. In addition, the Dragon Palace had dozens of level 5, level 6 and level 7 sea monsters. They could easily fend them off. The battle began and Wang Xian's reign continued. A large amount of resources were channeled into the dragon transformation pool of the Dragon Palace. The rest of the members of the Dragon Palace were improving at a terrifying speed. As time passed, screams of pain could be heard from the surroundings of the wall of protection. A prolonged war began. More and more people were dying. More and more Eternal Lord Sea monsters appeared. The Lord Sea monsters were fighting with their lives on the line while the humans were also fighting with their lives on the line. Chapter 2385 2385 23,850,300,000 sea monsters above Tier 5 Master God Realm. Rumble. Crash. Torrential rain fell from the sky. The rainwater in front of the city wall fell on the scarlet sea surface, creating blood-red splashes. The sea monsters had already entered the position of 20 kilometers away from the city wall. The human soldiers in the sky rushed over to engage in a fierce battle. The battle became more and more intense. From time to time, there would be experts at the level of the Eternal Lord dying. The endless sea monsters let out roars and roared in the world. The humans of the Tianzi continent could only use their lives to resist. Under the sea, the members of the Dragon Palace were also feeling a little pressure. However, this pressure was still within their limits. The sea monsters were coming one after another. Each of them had billions of existences. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. On the 8th day of the catastrophe, the number of sea monsters ruled by Wuxia alone had reached 7 to 8 billion. Including the kills, the Dragon Palace had obtained at least 20 billion corpses. Among them, there were more than 10,000 corpses at the level of the Eternal Lord. It was not an exaggeration to say that the number of sea monsters killed by the Dragon Palace accounted for 1/5 of the total number of sea monsters that had invaded the Dragon Palace. The members of the Dragon Palace were too strong in suppressing the sea monsters. Furthermore, Wuxia could easily control the sea monsters within a radius of 500 kilometers. It was simply too easy to kill them. "Generals, please come to the main command room." At this moment, a voice rang in Wuxia's ears. Wuxia was slightly stunned. After hesitating for a moment, he dashed out of the sea. He teleported to the command center. The other generals also teleported over in a flash. "Currently, we have lost 30% of our human soldiers. Order the second batch of people to come here immediately. Also, there aren't many sea monsters above level 5 of the Eternal Lord yet. Everyone get ready." The Supreme Commander didn't hesitate and immediately said to them, "Okay." The commanders of the 4 forces nodded with a gloomy face. "There's another piece of bad news. According to the news from the godly king behind us, there are more than 30,000 sea monsters above Eternal Lord rank 5 gathered behind us." The Supreme Commander said with a gloomy face. 30,000. Everyone's face turned ugly. There were only about 70,000 to 80,000 Eternal Master God experts in the entire Tianzi continent, and most of them were below the 5th rank of the Eternal Master God. Now that the sea monsters had gathered an army of 30,000 sea monsters, it was a bit terrifying. When the time came to attack, even their peak Master God generals would have to take action, and many of them might even die. Get ready. Also, get all the humans of our Tianzi continent to get ready. When we really reach a certain point, all the people will be soldiers. The highest commander gritted his teeth and said. The group of people nodded slightly in silence. One by one, they left with a solemn expression. At the same time, the 4 great powers, together with the Federation royal family, began to send the second batch of soldiers into the battlefield. During the 8-day war, nearly 20 million human soldiers of the Tianzi continent were killed or injured. These were all true experts. The combat strength of the second batch of soldiers was much weaker than the first batch. On the AI of the Tianzi continent, the eruption of the third calamity had long been announced. At this moment, the Federation announced that all citizens should be prepared to join the army. The calamity would spread to everyone at any time. If it really reached a certain stage, even demigods would have to go to the battlefield. Everyone in the Tianzi continent was panicking. How many people would die if all the people were soldiers? Even if the Tianzi continent was fighting with the underground sea day and night, it had never reached the point where all the people were soldiers. There would be experts protecting them. The previous calamity was something that this generation of humans had never experienced before. Now that the calamity had begun, everyone was filled with worry. However, when the humans of the Tianzi continent saw the intense battle on the wall of protection, their scalps went numb and they were filled with fury. They could only pray that the humans would be able to achieve victory. Rule. Wuxia returned to the bottom of the sea and immediately charged into the sea monsters ahead. With a jolt of his body, at least hundreds of thousands of sea monsters were ruled and quickly turned into resources. Currently, 80% of the dragon blood in the dragon transformation pool had been consumed. This was also the reason why the 5,000 members of the Dragon Palace were being consumed at a rapid rate. In 10 days, the number of Eternal Lord-level experts in the Dragon Palace had increased by 5,000. A total of 5,000 experts was definitely a terrifying number. Furthermore, after the 5,000 experts, the number could still be increased. Based on the amount of resources, The Dragon Palace could increase the number of Eternal Lord-level experts by 15,000. However, Wang Xian did not continue to increase the number. Instead, he wanted to increase the strength of the Dragon Palace, which was at the level of Eternal Master. Wang Xian had to lead at least 5,000 members of the Dragon Palace. All of them had the combat strength of at least level 5 or 6 of the Eternal Masters. On the afternoon of the 8th day, the second batch of soldiers stepped into the battlefield and fought with the sea monsters. However, the soldiers who entered at this time were extremely dangerous. In the next 2 days, 5 to 6 million soldiers died every day. The number of casualties was increasing, and the sea monsters' attacks were getting fiercer and fiercer. Even at the location of the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian sent out another 500 members who had been upgraded to the level of the Eternal Lord. Roar! Boom! 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 On the 10th day, a roar that reverberated throughout the entire Tianzi continent suddenly came from the depths of the ocean. Everyone was slightly shocked. Following which, everyone saw that deep within the ocean, a scene that looked like the end of the world had appeared. A huge blade shot up into the sky, slashing straight into the ocean. A terrifying beast roar and shocking blade light. This is an undying Emperor-level sea monster fighting with Lord Sword Emperor. The God Emperor-level battle has begun. Everyone's hearts trembled, their pupils dilated as they looked over in shock. The attacking sea monsters paused slightly. Roar, roar, roar. Roars suddenly sounded from the rear, and the attacking sea monsters suddenly retreated. The soldiers were all astonished. However, soon bad news came from the command center. The sea monsters didn't retreat. Instead, more gathered. 30,000 Eternal God Lord rank 5 and above sea monsters came to the front of all the sea monsters. They were prepared to carry out the final attack. When the generals received the news, they had extremely solemn expressions on their faces. Are the sea monsters going to carry out the final attack in 10 days? Commander Xian frowned and looked at the generals of the Xian-Tian territory. Commander Xian, 30,000 sea monsters above level 5 of the Master of Eternal God, how many of them are at the peak of the godly state? Wang Xian frowned and asked. He could no longer control the sea monsters at level 5 of the Celestial Master. According to the uncertain news, there are more than 200 of them, which is more than twice the number of US humans. 95% of the peak of the Celestial Master among us humans are here. With the strategic weapons of the Federation, it's not that we can't fight them, but we must be prepared to die. Commander Xian's face was solemn. In 10 days the sea monsters had launched a general attack, followed by a large-scale life and death battle. Chapter 2386. 2386-23, 866, 30, 000 God Lords and above, under the Sea Monster Army. Notice, all experts of the Tianzi continent have entered the Guardian Wall, guarding the front lines of the humans. Notice, all strategic weapons of the Tianzi continent have been prepared, ready to bombard at any time. On the 10th day of the catastrophe, the AI announced a notice: all human experts, Eternal God Lords had to step onto the battlefield. Although this was only a notice, every human of the Tianzi continent had to abide by it, because this represented the rule of the Federation and the 4 major forces, and no one dared to defy it. In addition, one by one, the Tianzi continent's incomparably powerful strategic weapons were being transported over. In the sky, aircraft carriers floated in the air, and the cannons in the city behind them were aimed at the ocean. The entire natural selection continent could feel the tense atmosphere, especially in the sky deep in the ocean. The terrifying battle had almost spread across half of the continent. Those 50,000 sea monsters at the level of the Eternal Lord should be attacking soon. It might be a crisis for the Tianzi continent, but it might be an opportunity for me. Wang Xian returned to Region 51 to 52 from Shentong and the rest. He stood on the wall of protection and looked at the sea in front of him. There were more than 30,000 sea monsters at the level of the Eternal Lord and above. There were more than 200 of them at the peak of the deity realm. If Wang Xian could take advantage of this opportunity to devour enough sea monsters, he could undergo a transformation. Once he stepped into the immortal godly monarch realm, everything would be much easier. Once he stepped into the immortal godly monarch realm, the members of the Dragon Palace would be able to improve rapidly. At that time, it would be easy for him to nurture a few hundred peak stage Master God Realm members. Before that, set up some formations. Wang Xian moved his body and immediately jumped into the ocean in front of him. This time he had to be 100% confident. In the surrounding area, all the formation masters of the mysterious sky territory were setting up formations one after another. Even though the sea monsters had yet to attack, the entire protective wall was still filled with an extremely solemn atmosphere. The powerhouses from the other parts of the Tianzi continent rushed over one by one and listened to the orders of the Federation. The faces of the powerhouses who arrived were a little embarrassed and pale. However, in the face of a life-and-death battle between humans, they could not cower. Sergeant Ling Chenyan, where's General Wang? On the wall of protection, a soldier flew over and asked Ling Chenyan. General Wang is in the ocean? What's the matter? Ling Chenyan asked the person who had arrived. There's a group of human experts. If General Wang needs them, we can distribute some of them. The person said to Ling Chenyan. No need. Send them to other places. At this moment, Prime Minister Gue, who was standing at the side, suddenly said, "En?" Hearing Prime Minister Gue's words, Ling Chenyan nodded to the soldiers beside her. At this moment, Ling Chenyan was extremely curious about this Dragon Palace army. The other areas were bombarded with weapons, and there were even many places that requested reinforcements. However, not only were there no weapons or reinforcements, she didn't even see many casualties. Her heart was filled with curiosity and respect for the Dragon Palace army. This was a powerful army. Not only was Ling Chenyan surprised, even the highest-ranking officer in the command center was extremely curious. Unfortunately, he couldn't see what was happening in the ocean. This fellow isn't simple. On the left side of the Dragon Palace army, City Lord Liang scanned the 51 to 52 regions with a gloomy expression. He knew the situation of the Dragon Palace army the best. At the beginning there were over 4,000 experts, but now there were still over 4,000 experts. It seemed like there wasn't a single casualty. This made him a little jealous, especially since the other party was their enemy. He was even more displeased. Even though it was the time of the sea monster's calamity, he still hoped that the other party would be completely annihilated by the sea monsters. All soldiers get ready. The sea monsters are attacking us. Behind us is our home. We have the family that we need to protect. We will not retreat even if we die in battle. At this moment, the solemn voice of the Supreme Commander resounded in everyone's mind. So fast. Wang Xian, who was in the ocean, frowned as he looked at the formation in front of him. He had only set up one formation. There was no time left for him to continue setting it up. All members of the Dragon Palace, get ready. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he ordered all the members. It's the Dragon King. There were still more than 4,000 members of the Dragon Palace and 1,500 Eternal Lord-level members. In the Dragon Palace, all 5,000 of them had been born in the past 10 days. However, they were still improving their strength and did not participate in the following battle. Prime Minister Gue, enter the Dragon Palace and use up all the resources to create a strange demon with the peak combat strength of an Eternal Lord. Wang Xian ordered Prime Minister Gue, who was beside him. Although the strange demon was only able to assassinate people 2 levels above him, it was more terrifying because it had a high chance of killing a sea monster at the peak of an Eternal Lord. This was much more suitable than a peak stage god-level wild dragon species. Although it consumed a lot of resources, these resources were not enough for the wild dragon species to increase its combat strength to the level of an immortal god-level king. The improvement of the wild dragon species required more resources than that of the thorn dragon species. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gue nodded and immediately entered the Dragon Gate of the Dragon Palace. They're here. When Prime Minister Gue came out again, Wang Xian looked at the terrifying figures in front of him. Most of the figures were hundreds of meters in size. There were even sea monsters that were thousands of meters in size. They were all mighty and mighty. The leaders were all at level 5 and above of the Eternal Lord. One could sense the terrifying aura of the sea monsters at the peak of the Lord God realm from afar. When all the sea monsters were about 50 kilometers away from the surface of the water, all of them rushed out of the water. At the 51 to 52 region, Wang Xian could sense 4 terrifying auras. His pupils contracted slightly, but he didn't take any action. The first round of attacks didn't require them to make a move. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, a terrifying sound came from above. At the top of the aircraft carrier, cannons with a diameter of 10 meters were poked out. One by one, the cannonballs aimed at the sea monsters in the ocean. The weapons of the Tianzi continent could destroy a peak stage godlord realm sea monster. The tail lines of the vast cannon fire drew a long arc and bombarded the sea monsters one by one. Destructive energy rose into the sky. Above the wall of protection, all the soldiers stared nervously at the bombardment this time. The commander-in-chief also stood up nervously and stared at the screen. Demon Ao Xingmu, get ready. Wang Xian licked his lips when he saw this scene. His eyes were sparkling. There were 4 sea monsters at the peak of the Eternal Lord realm in his area. As long as he could severely injure or even injure 1 or 2 of them, he would be able to kill them instantly. At that time he could devour them immediately. Chapter 2387. 2387. The might of the 2387 Dragon Palace. Boom, boom, boom. The cannon fodder in the sky poured down. Amidst the endless sea monsters, blood-red waves rose up. The terrifying energy pillars locked onto the sea monsters at the peak of the Eternal Lord realm. Each energy pillar was extremely terrifying. With the development of technology, the energy pillars could lock onto and chase after them. Wang Xian stood in the middle of the ocean and saw 2 extremely terrifying energy pillars attacking the 2 peak of the Eternal Lord realm. Bang, bang, bang. A terrifying explosion rang out. Wang Xian could feel waves of waves surging over. Endless cannonballs rained down, and the chaotic energy completely covered everyone's vision. With his Yin-Yang 5 elemental dragon eyes, Wang Xian could see that a sea monster at the peak stage of the Divine Lord realm was directly killed. The other sea monster at the peak stage of the Divine Lord realm was also seriously injured. Wang Xian was delighted when he saw this scene. Strange demon, make your move. Kill that seriously injured sea monster and collect its corpse. Wang Xian immediately gave the order. It's the Dragon King. The strange demon nodded immediately and disappeared in an instant. Bus, bus. The strange demon's body size was very small and did not increase with the increase in its strength. However, this did not mean that its attack was low. The strange demon's light and darkness could instantly destroy a peak stage Godlord expert. As the king of assassinations in the Dragon Palace, he could fight 2 levels higher than him. However, 2 levels higher than him could almost instantly kill him. Even a berserk dragon of the same level as him would find it difficult to do so. The strange demon turned into a black and white line and disappeared from sight. Roar. Soon, a roar came from the front, but this roar did not cause any disturbance to the surrounding sea monsters. That was because the sea monsters were still being bombarded by the shells. Moreover, this bombardment was almost all the high-tech weapons in the entire Tianzi continent. Bus, bus. Soon the strange demon flew over with 2 gigantic corpses. Wang Xian looked over and found that there were still traces of weak vitality in the corpses. Excitement appeared in his eyes. His head immediately turned into a dragon's head and devoured the corpses. Bus. As he felt the increase in the dragon energy, an excited look appeared in his eyes. I'm almost 13 sea monsters at the peak of the godly state that will be able to level up on their own. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he stared at the 2 sea monsters in front of him and licked his lips. There were 4 sea monsters at the peak of the godly state in Area 51 and Area 52. After swallowing all of them, there were 11 more sea monsters left. If he wanted to improve further, he would need to devour 700 to 800 level 9 Eternal Divine Lord sea monsters. There are about 800 level 9 Eternal Divine Lord sea monsters in my area. It's obviously not enough for me to improve myself. I can go to the Shen Heaven domain to support them. Wang Xian calculated in his heart. Roar, roar, roar. At this moment, the sea monsters in front of Wang Xian rushed towards the wall of protection despite the danger of being bombarded by cannon fodder. Lure them over. Wang Xian said immediately. Boom, boom, boom. In the next moment, the arrow dragon seeds of the Heaven's Eye Arrow Division launched terrifying arrows. Roar, roar, roar. All the sea monsters in Area 51 and 52 immediately rushed into the sea and attacked Wang Xian and the rest. Kill? Ao Xingmu, the 3 of us instantly killed a sea monster at the peak of the Eternal Lord stage. Wang Xian stared ahead. There were more than 800 sea monsters at the level of the Eternal Lord level 5 and above. This force was much stronger than the Dragon Palace. However, the Dragon Palace had 1 more expert at the peak of the Eternal Lord level. Especially with the presence of the strange demon, with the help of Wang Xian or Ao Xingmu, they could instantly kill one of them. Roar. Wang Xian and Ao Xingmu took the lead and charged forward. The members of the Dragon Palace did not follow. Roar! Roar! In front of them, the two sea monsters at the peak of the Eternal Lord Realm were not subjected to the strategic bombardment. Their huge eyes were staring at Wang Xian and Ao Xingmu. Boom! The two sea monsters at the peak of the Eternal Lord Realm opened their mouths and a black torrent attacked them. Buzz! The yin-yang Tai Chi appeared in front of Wang Xian and blocked the terrifying attack directly. In just an instant, the distance between Wang Xian and the two sea monsters at the peak of the Eternal Lord Realm was only 5 kilometers. Attack! Wang Xian and Ao Xingmu attacked one sea monster at the peak of the Eternal Lord Realm instantly, completely ignoring the other one. Roar! The sea monster that was attacked revealed a furious expression. The sea monster at the peak of the Eternal Lord Realm attacked Wang Xian directly. Yin-yang 5 elements Om's bowl. Wang Xian's body was surrounded by energy as he prepared to take the attack head-on. The sea monster that was attacked by Wang Xian and the rest radiated a black glow all over its body. It tried its best to block the attack and similarly blocked their attack. However, at this moment, a tiny figure appeared in the sky above it. The intertwining of yin and yang entered the body of the sea monster. Roar! 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 The body of the sea monster at the peak of the Master God Realm shook violently in the sky as it let out a terrified roar. When Ao Xingmu saw this scene, he attacked the other sea monster at the peak of the Master God Realm with his endless branches. Wang Xian's head turned into a dragon head and devoured it directly. A large amount of flesh and blood turned into dragon qi. A smile appeared on his face. He stared at the last sea monster at the peak of the Master God Realm beside him. With only one left, it was much simpler. With the assassination of the strange demon, coupled with the powerful strength of Ao Xingmu and himself, the second sea monster at the peak of the Master God Realm was killed in just a minute. The following areas were much simpler. Wang Xian moved his body. With the cooperation of Ao Xingmu and the strange demon, he devoured all the 800+ sea monsters at the level of the Master God Realm and above. Behind him were endless godly states and sea monsters that were mixed with the Master God Realm. Ao Xingmu, you take charge here. Strange demon, let's go. Let's go to Area 53. The corner of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he said immediately, "It's the Dragon King." Ao Xingmu nodded immediately. With him taking charge here, nothing would happen unless there were sea monsters at the peak of the Master God Realm charging over. Let's go. Wang Xian moved his body and flew out of the sea. He flew towards Area 53. Kill, kill, kill. On the surface of the sea, there were fewer artillery attacks. The sea monsters in the sky flew into the sky one by one, trying to climb up the wall of protection. Human soldiers were fighting against the sea monsters. Blood splattered everywhere. It was extremely tragic. In the middle of the sea, a sea monster at the peak of the Master God Realm was fighting against Shenzhen. The terrifying attack covered hundreds of thousands of kilometers. No sea monster dared to approach them. "General Shenzhensho, let me help you." Wang Xian shouted and flew directly into the sky. General Wang, don't you have any sea monsters at the peak of the Master God Realm? When Shenzhensho saw Wang Xian flying over, he was delighted and asked loudly, "Haha, we have already killed them. Brothers from the Shen Heaven Domain, don't panic. We will definitely win." Wang Xian laughed out loud and dashed into the battlefield between the mysterious guardian and the sea monster at the peak of the Divine Lord Realm. General Wang actually killed the sea monster at the peak of the Divine Lord Realm. Hiss, the Dragon Palace's army is guarding 2 regions. How did they manage to defend them so quickly? In the 53rd region, all the soldiers of the mysterious sky territory were slightly shocked and their faces were filled with excitement. Chapter 2388. 2388 was furious. "Haha, good brother Wang, the humans will definitely win." When Shenzhensho heard Wang Xian's words, his face was filled with excitement. At the same time, his heart was filled with shock. This was because it was adjacent to the area guarded by the Dragon Palace army. Earlier, he could sense the aura of 4 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God Realm in Area 51 to 52. The strategic artillery fire only fired 2 rounds at Area 51 to 52. In other words, he could only destroy 2 peak stage Master God level sea monsters at most. However, Wang Xian had already taken care of the peak stage Master God level sea monsters in less than 3 minutes. What kind of strength was this? What kind of strength did the Dragon Palace army hide? Guard Xian attacked together. Wang Xian shouted loudly. With a wave of his arm, the 5 elements millstone appeared in the sky and attacked the 9-clawed sea monster that was 2,000 meters in size. All right. Guardian Xian responded loudly immediately. With a wave of his arm, a formation compass was activated instantly. The sky seemed to be torn apart. A sharp sword descended from the sky and headed straight for the sea monster. Clang, 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 clang. The terrifying sharp sword seemed to be tearing apart the space. Guardian Xian was a formation master. Due to the lack of control over formations, he couldn't fight against opponents of a higher level. However, it wasn't a problem for him to fight against 2 opponents of the same level. All right. Wang Xian felt Xian Jinsho's attack and his eyes shone with a dazzling light. The 5 elements millstone smashed towards the sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm. Roar, roar, roar. The sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm roared in fear. Bang, bang, bang. Faced with Wang Xian's attack and Xian Jinsho's formation, a large amount of blood oozed out from the body of the sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm. Alright, as long as he doesn't escape, we will definitely kill him within 20 minutes. When Xian Jinren saw this scene, he revealed an extremely excited expression. After killing this sea monster, we can help the other generals in the Xian Heaven domain. There are places where they can fight against 2 Master God realm sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm. He continued to shout excitedly. The moment he finished his sentence, light and darkness flashed in the sky above the sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm. At this moment, Wang Xian flew over with a smile on his face and extended his palm. The claw instantly turned into a dragon claw and clawed at the sea monster. Boom! He grabbed the body of the sea monster and charged straight into the ocean. This? Guardian Xian was slightly stunned. He looked at this scene with a dumbfounded expression. Crush. After entering the ocean, Wang Xian turned into a dragon head and devoured it. Guardian Xian, I have a use for this sea monster's corpse. I'll take it away. Wang Xian rushed into the sky again and said to Guardian Xian. This, of course there's no problem. Guardian Xian widened his eyes. His face was filled with astonishment. The speed was too fast. A powerhouse at the peak of the Master God realm was killed just like that. It was simply shocking. That black and white figure just now. His eyes were sparkling. That black and white figure was a strange powerhouse at the peak of the God Lord realm. What exactly is his identity? Even the old ancestor didn't tell us. Guardian Xian thought to himself. Guardian Xian, let's kill some sea monsters first to reduce the pressure on you guys. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the battlefield and said. Alright, haha, brother Wang Xian, thank you so much. Guard Xian reacted quickly and shouted excitedly. The 2 of them moved and instantly attacked the Lord of God sea monsters below. The 2 of them were at the peak of the Lord of God realm. It was still very easy for them to kill sea monsters that were weaker than them. General Wang of the Dragon Palace army is so strong. He instantly helped our guard general to kill the sea monsters at the peak of the Lord of God realm. Haha, kill, 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 kill. General Wang is simply too strong. General Wang is invincible. All the soldiers in the surrounding area 5-3 were excited when they saw Wang Xian and Guard Xian killing the sea monsters at their peak in an instant. With the sea monsters at their peak killed and the rest of the level 9 and level 8 sea monsters killed by them, their losses would be reduced to the lowest. Everyone was extremely excited as they shouted the words, General Wang is invincible loudly. I'll take these corpses away. Wang Xian was still in an area where Xian Jinren and the rest couldn't see. He devoured hundreds of the sea monsters' corpses and said with a smile. It's no big deal, brother Wang. Here. Xian Jinren laughed and threw the sea monsters' corpses to Wang Xian. Thank you very much, Xian Jinren. Shall we head to Area 54? Wang Xian said to him with a smile on his face. Alright, let's go. Guardian Xian's face revealed an extremely excited expression. Wang Xian's strength had instantly freed a few of the peak stage Divine Lord's combat strength. They could totally go to other places to support and kill as quickly as possible. This way the humans would be victorious. But, without any hesitation, Wang Xian and Guardian Xian flew towards Area 54. That General Wang from Area 51-52. At this moment in the commander's office, the Supreme Commander was looking at the area where Wang Xian and the rest were with excitement. His eyes were sparkling. He and the Dragon Palace's army are so strong. They might be the turning point for this battle. The Supreme Commander's eyes were filled with anticipation. However, when he saw the other regions, his brows were tightly knitted. General Wang, guard Xian. When you guys finish off the sea monsters at the peak of the Master God level in Region 54, please send reinforcements to Region 50 or Region 25. He hesitated for a moment before sending a voice transmission immediately. Wang Xian and guard Xian, who were flying towards Region 54, were slightly stunned. No problem. Xian Jinsho hesitated for a moment before replying. Xian Jinsho, you will go and support Area 25 later. Wang Xian immediately said to Xian Jinsho. Area 50 was the area of the city in the sky while Area 25 was the area of the battlefield. Naturally, he had to support the battlefield. All right. Xian Jinsho nodded immediately. He had no objection to Wang Xian's words. The reason why the Xian Heaven domain was in such a situation was all thanks to Wang Xian. Old Hong were here. Let's kill them, Soon the two of them arrived at Area 54. The general named Old Hong was unlucky. At this moment he was fighting two sea monsters at the peak of the Divine Lord realm alone. However, his strength was strong enough. He was not at a disadvantage when fighting two of them alone. Guard, did you get rid of the trouble on your side? The old man who was fighting with great difficulty was slightly shocked when he saw them flying over. He asked with joy. It's all thanks to General Wang who helped me kill a peak stage Godlord sea monster. You block one first. General Wang and I will quickly kill one. Guard Xian laughed loudly and charged into the battlefield. Guardian Xian and General Wang are here. We are saved. General Wang is so strong. He is leading his subordinates to guard two regions. When the soldiers saw that they had arrived, they heaved a heavy sigh of relief. A trace of excitement appeared on their faces. If no one came to support them, there would not be many people who could survive in Area 54. Chapter 2389. 2389 was furious. Boom, boom, boom. The situation above Area 54 was the same as Area 53. Xian Jinwei and Wang Xian were attacking a sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm. In less than a minute, the sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm was assassinated by Ao Yao. As for the other sea monster, its speed was even faster. Wang Xian grabbed the two corpses and stepped into the ocean to devour them. This is too ferocious. The general of Area 54 was also shocked. His eyes were filled with shock when he saw the black and white figure. It's just that heaven-defying. Brother Wang's subordinate is too strong. Xian Jinsho said to Old Hong with a smile on his face. With General Wang around, victory for us humans is right in front of us. Old Hong's face was filled with excitement. The three of them took action and swiftly cleared out some of the peak stage Master God experts to reduce the pressure on the other soldiers. Brother Wang, I'll go to Area 25. You and Old Hong will head to Area 55. After clearing out some Master God sea monsters, Guard Xianjin immediately spoke to Wang Xian. All right, General Hong, let's go. Wang Xian nodded and said to the old man. All right, let's go. The old man was also extremely excited. With such a terrifying speed, the strongest human was soon released. Once they were released, it would be a victory for mankind. Wang Xian and the old man flew towards Area 55 while Chief Xian teleported towards Area 25. Good. In the main command room, the highest commander was also looking at this scene with excitement. That Wang Xian and his terrifying underling were simply too ferocious. They were the saviors of mankind. The more powerhouses at the peak of the Master God level were freed, the more support they could provide to other places. In that case, mankind would not lose. All soldiers, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Kill. General Wang, who is guarding Area 51 and Area 52, has led his powerful subordinates and killed 7 peak God Lord sea monsters. Now that Area 52's mysterious guard has been liberated, more peak God Lord experts will be liberated soon. When the time comes, they will support you. Hold on. Victory in this war belongs to US humans. The Supreme Commander roared with excitement. His voice spread throughout the entire Guardian Wall, reaching every soldier's ears. What? District 51's District 52's General Wang and his subordinates actually killed so many peak sea monsters. Haha, this General Wang is simply too awesome. Long live. Hold on, brothers, we humans of the Tianzi continent will definitely win. Definitely win. On the entire wall of protection, everyone's spirits jolted, their bodies filled with a strong fighting spirit. In such a short period of time, General Wang and the others had actually killed 7 peak Lord God Realm sea monsters. Victory was right before their eyes. At this time in District 50, City Lord Liang and the commander of Sky City were fighting against 3 peak Lord God Realm sea monsters. The people of District 50 were very unlucky. They managed to attack 4 peak stage Godlord sea monsters at once. Most importantly, none of the sea monsters died under the attack of the 3 strategic shells. Under such circumstances, City Lord Liang immediately requested the support of Sky City, and the commander immediately flew over. However, even though the commander of Sky City had extremely powerful combat strength of the same level and had powerful treasures, he still managed to kill 1 sea monster. There were still 3 sea monsters left. 2 against 3, the situation was extremely dangerous, especially when there was a cunning peak stage God Lord sea monster attacking the rest of the soldiers of Sky City. In just a short 10 minutes, Area 50 suffered heavy losses. Supreme Commander, we request for reinforcements from the liberated experts. When the commander of Sky City heard the Supreme Commander's words, he immediately transmitted his voice to him. Wait for a moment. Reinforcements will be here soon. The Supreme Commander immediately said. How much longer do we have to wait? Our Area 50 can't hold on much longer. City Lord Liang's face was blood red as he roared furiously. 5 minutes at most. The Supreme Commander immediately replied. Supreme Commander, another peak God Lord sea monster has appeared in our Area 3. Requesting reinforcements. Right at this moment, an angry roar sounded. The Supreme Commander's expression changed, and he immediately looked towards Sector 3. Hold on, reinforcements will arrive soon. He immediately replied loudly. Ha, another one has been killed. 3 minutes later, an incomparably carefree roar sounded from Sector 50's AXS position. When everyone in the wall of protection heard this carefree roar, their faces revealed joy. Area 50, Area 3 needs reinforcements. General of Area 56, head there immediately. The highest commander immediately commanded loudly. All right. At Area 56, an old man opened his mouth and nodded his head excitedly. General, head to Area 3 for reinforcements. Wang Xian looked at the general of Area 56 and said with a smile. All right. The old man nodded his head. Now, wherever Wang Xian asked him to send reinforcements, he would naturally send reinforcements. Let's continue. The general known as Old Hong's eyes were filled with excitement. He immediately said to Wang Xian. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head in excitement as well. At this speed, he would soon possess the combat strength of an immortal god king. After devouring another 6 sea monsters at the peak of the God Lord realm, he would be able to increase his combat strength. The 2 of them immediately flew over. At the same time, the general of District 56 teleported to District 3. Where's the support? Where's the support? When the general of the 56th district arrived at the 3rd district, City Lord Liang spat out a mouthful of blood and roared angrily with a pale face. The general of the 56th district is already fighting in the 3rd district. General of the 50th district, wait for a few more minutes for the support. The highest commander immediately replied. Damn it, our 50th district is relatively close to the 3rd district. The 3rd district is your Federation's district. You guys did it on purpose. City Lord Liang's face was filled with rage as he questioned sternly. When the commander of the city in the sky received this news, his face turned extremely gloomy. General of Area 50, this is their choice. I, the commander, will not show any favoritism, nor will I do it on purpose. Everyone is a hero. The Supreme Commander's face turned stern as he spoke with a righteous expression. It's that fellow, it's that Wang Xian. When City Lord Liang heard the Supreme Commander's words, his expression changed drastically. At this moment, he suddenly roared in a low voice that was filled with killing intent. He naturally knew who that General Wang of the 51st District and 52nd District was. Based on the grudge between them and the other party, it would be their turn to provide support in the end. Furthermore, the other party was hindering them in the dark and might not come to provide support to them. Thinking of this, City Lord Liang gritted his teeth. The commander of Sky City beside him also realized this problem and his expression was extremely gloomy. Beast, get over here. Suddenly, City Lord Liang waved his arm and a majestic energy shot towards a peak stage God Lord Sea Monster in front of the commander. The commander of Sky City was slightly stunned. I'll lure them to the side. City Lord Liang's eyes flickered as he spoke to the commander of Sky City. The commander was slightly stunned and a cold look appeared in his eyes. He glanced in the direction of District 51 and nodded heavily. Chapter 2390. 2390 Under the Fury of 2390. General Wang is here. Aha, General Wang is here. Kill, kill, kill. Alright. General Wang, help me kill this bunch of animals. At Area 57 of the Wall of Protection, when the experts guarding the area saw Wang Xian rushing over with a general, their faces were filled with excitement. They had heard the words of the Supreme Commander. However, when they saw Wang Xian and the rest arriving, everyone in Area 57 was still in shock. Their speed was simply too fast. The speed of suppressing an area was simply too fast. Second Grandpa, unleash your strongest attack. The general known as Old Hong shouted at the general in Area 57. Good. The general's eyes were filled with excitement. He gripped the long saber in his hand tightly and attacked the sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm. Old Hong followed closely behind. Wang Xian stretched out his dragon claw and clawed at the sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm. Boom, boom, boom. The full-strength attack of the two generals was not able to cause serious injuries to the sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm. However, this attack was sufficient. Faced with such a powerful attack, the sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm had no chance to deal with the strange demon's assassination. Under the flickering of light and darkness, death was brought. At this moment, Wang Xian grabbed the body of the sea monster and pulled it into the ocean. Good. General Old Hong laughed out loud. An instant kill. Another instant kill. Awesome. Another general looked at the spot where Ao Yao disappeared and exclaimed in awe. Splash. The next moment, Wang Xian rushed out from the ocean. General Wang, I'll go and reinforce the 50th region then. When the general of the 57th region saw Wang Xian coming out, he smiled and said immediately. Now that the 50th region was in danger, he could rush over. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head. Now that the humans of the Tianzi continent were in a life-and-death situation, he would ask the generals to support the region defended by the city in the sky. However, he didn't care about not supporting them on purpose. After his upgrade this time around, he would also possess the combat strength of an immortal god king. At that time he would settle the score from the past. Alright, the rest of the regions will depend on General Wang. The general of the 57th region said loudly. If he could survive this calamity, General Wang would have contributed greatly. Howl. However, at this time at the 50th region, City Lord Liang led two pinnacle God Lord sea monsters towards the 51st region. He glanced at the two pinnacle God Lord sea monsters behind him, gritting his teeth, his eyes filled with viciousness. He looked at the somewhat calm Area 51. His gaze was filled with coldness. Voila! Without any hesitation he charged into the ocean. Not good. Leader Ao Xingmu, the experts of Area 50 have attracted the two peak Lord God Realm sea monsters to our side. A member of the Dragon Palace who was guarding at the edge of Area 51 immediately roared with a huge change in expression. Roar. However, at this moment two peak Master God sea monsters charged over, and the terrifying shockwave instantly killed the member of the Dragon Palace. At the same time, City Lord he continued to fly forward. Along the way the shockwaves killed the members of the Dragon Palace one by one. In just a dozen seconds, dozens of members of the Dragon Palace died instantly, and half of them were Eternal Master God level. Crash. Ao Xingmu immediately looked to the left at the junction of Area 51 and Area 52. He was furious when he saw two peak God Lords flying toward him. Damn it. He immediately went up to them. Damn it, what is that general of Area 50 doing? At the same time, the Supreme Commander in the command center clenched his fists in embarrassment. Dragon King requesting reinforcements. The general of Sky City in the 50th region has led two peak stage Divine Lord sea monsters to us. There are many casualties among the disciples of the Dragon Palace. requesting reinforcements. At this moment, Ao Xingmu's voice resounded throughout the entire Guardian Wall. At this moment, Ao Xingmu's expression was extremely gloomy. He had never expected that the general of the 50th region would actually attract peak-stage Divine Lord Sea monsters. If he was not in charge of this place, the fate of the disciples of the Dragon Palace would be imaginable. The sudden sound that resounded through the protective wall stunned all the humans. What? At the 57th region, Wang Xian, who was about to head to the 58th region, stopped in his tracks. His face instantly sank. He had never expected that the people from the city in the sky would actually dare to attract the sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm to their Dragon Palace. A terrifying killing intent shot out from Wang Xian's eyes instantly. City in the sky, all of you must die. Wang Xian roared furiously. His voice was filled with endless killing intent. His voice reverberated throughout the entire wall of protection, causing the expressions of all the humans to change drastically. Damn it, what are you people from Zone 50 doing? I have already gone to your place to provide support. The general from Area 57, who was already halfway there, had a drastic change in his expression as he questioned angrily. Boom, boom, boom. Wang Xian flew directly towards the Dragon Palace's garrison. His entire body was exuding a strong murderous aura. Oh no! In the commander's office, the Supreme Commander's expression changed drastically when he saw this scene. General Wang, you can't. He immediately shouted loudly. Wang Xian's expression didn't change at all when he heard his voice. He instantly came to the sky above the Dragon Palace's garrison and looked down. On the surface of the sea, Ao Xingmu and City Lord Liang were fighting against two sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm. City Lord Liang, who had a similarly gloomy expression, glanced at Wang Xian coldly when he saw him flying over. General Wang, we were forced to do so. Furthermore, you have a Master God at the peak of the Master God realm here. City Lord Liang said coldly. Kill? Wang Xian stared at City Lord Liang, his eyes filled with awe. Boom boom. In the next moment, he attacked City Lord Liang without any hesitation. General Wang, do you know what you are doing? How dare you attack me? Are you trying to make an enemy out of our natural selection continent? When City Lord Liang saw that Wang Xian was actually attacking him, he roared furiously while blocking the attack of the sea monsters. Boom. However, there was no fluctuation in Wang Xian's eyes. His arm turned into a dragon claw as he attacked City Lord Liang directly. Damn it, you are betraying the human race. A hint of fear flashed across City Lord Liang's eyes. He did not expect that Wang Xian would actually want to kill him at this moment. He dared to have an internal conflict during the calamity. Damn it, what happened? What are the people of Sky City doing? General Wang wants to attack the experts of Sky City? This is a war. The other areas of the wall of protection changed their expressions when they heard the voice. Chapter 2391. 2391 was fearless. Boom, boom, boom. Wang Xian swooped down from the sky, completely ignoring the sea monster at the peak of the Divine Lord realm beside him. You're courting death. You actually want to kill me? City Lord Liang's expression changed as he let out a series of roars. Every single one of his voice was heard by everyone in the wall of protection. It was obvious that he wanted to let others know of Wang Xian's actions so that he would have some scruples. This was the truth. Many experts frowned when they heard his words. However, City Lord Liang was wrong about one thing. Wang Xian did not have any scruples about this. Speaking of which, he was not from the Tianzi continent. The reason why he was able to guard this place was firstly to obtain the corpse of the sea monster. Secondly, it was because he had the Xian Heaven domain backing him up. Xian Tianzi was also good to him. Naturally, the Dragon Palace had to make a move. However, this did not mean that the people from the city in the sky had caused the death of his Dragon Palace's disciples. He would continue to fend off the sea monster. 5 elements, law of annihilation. Wang Xian extended his dragon claw and the terrifying dragon claw clawed at his body. The killing intent that filled the sky was not concealed at all. Damn it. City Lord Liang's expression changed drastically when he saw Wang Xian's attack. He immediately brandished the sharp sword in his hand and drew a terrifying long river to meet Wang Xian's attack. Boom. A terrifying collision was heard. City Lord Liang was still trying to defend against the sea monster's attack. His expression changed drastically. But at the next moment, a death threat covered his entire body. His face was filled with horror. Boom. At the next moment, a white image appeared on his body. Puff. Ao Yao's sharp claws landed on his body. However, the powerful defense on his body prevented him from dying. His entire body was pierced through, and the light and dark energy landed on their bodies, causing his expression to change drastically. His face was filled with cold sweat of terror. Is this fellow's terrifying underling? No wonder he could instantly kill a peak god lord sea monster. City Lord Liang's lips turned white, and his body slowly turned white as well. Although the supreme treasure on his body had blocked this attack, his entire body was heavily injured. Run. Without any hesitation, he immediately fled in the direction of District 50. General Wang wants to kill me. Save me. At the same time, he roared and his voice spread throughout the wall of protection. When everyone heard this voice, their expressions changed. He's not dead yet. When Wang Xian saw that City Lord Liang was still alive, his eyes were filled with fear. Ao Xingmu, you single-handedly hold off the 2 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm. All the members of the Dragon Palace, follow me and kill everyone in the city in the sky. How dare you deliberately lure the 2 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm here to kill my Dragon Palace's disciples? You shall pay with blood. Wang Xian's face revealed an extremely violent expression. He did not try to hide his words at all. His voice similarly resounded throughout the entire wall of protection. Don't be afraid. If you dare to kill my Dragon Palace's disciples, I will pay you back tenfold. It's the Dragon King. More than 1,500 divine masters of the Dragon Palace and 3,000 experts at the peak of the godly state let out a roar and charged toward District 50 with murderous intent. Damn it, how dare they? How dare they? City Lord Liang's face turned pale instantly when he heard Wang Xian's words. Once Wang Xian brought all the members of the Dragon Palace to attack them, it would mean that District 51 and District 52 had abandoned the defense. If they were to attack District 50, District 50 would suffer heavy losses as well. This made him want to tear his eyes apart. Feeling the pursuit of Wang Xian and the army of the Dragon Palace behind him, his heart pounded violently. It was not just him. At this moment, the hearts of everyone in the entire wall of protection pounded violently. What the hell was going on? The humans were actually fighting among themselves. If they were to fight among themselves during this period, everyone would be waiting for their deaths. Bastards, what the hell are you doing in Area 50? General Wang, calm down the Dragon Palace army. One of the generals couldn't help but shout furiously. Kill. Kill everyone in the city in the sky in Area 50. At this moment, Wang Xian's cold roar was the response to all the humans in the Tianzi continent. Wang Xian flew over and stared at the soldiers of Sky City who were guarding the area in front of him. Then he ordered the members of the Dragon Palace. Kill. In the next moment, all the members of the Dragon Palace did not show any mercy and immediately launched a fatal attack. In an instant, the sea monsters attacked from the front and the soldiers of Sky City who were from the Dragon Palace on the right were horrified. Bang, bang, bang. In just one round of attack, tens of thousands of people from the Sky City were killed. Crazy. Why did City Lord Liang deliberately lure the Peak Lord God Realm sea monster to the Dragon Palace? Now we are in trouble. We are not from the Sky City, we are not. In an instant, the entire Area 50 was in chaos. General Wang, you are seeking your own death. The commander of Sky City, who was currently dealing with a peak stage Godlord sea monster, saw this scene and his eyes instantly turned red as he shouted sternly. He also did not expect that the other party would actually abandon their defenses and come to kill them at this time. Was this the destruction of the entire human race of the Tianzi continent? General Wang. At this moment, the expression of the highest commander in the commander's room also changed drastically. He could no longer sit still and immediately flew out. General Wang, calm down. This is a matter of life and death for humans. The Supreme Commander flew rapidly toward District 50 and shouted loudly in the sky. Haha, Supreme Commander, you should know that I, Wang Xian, am not from the Tianzi continent. Just now, I led my men to kill 7 to 8 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm. Now, the General of District 50 in the Sky City has deliberately lured 2 Master God realm experts into the territory guarded by my Dragon Palace army, causing the death of my Dragon Palace disciples. I want to take revenge now. I want all the soldiers of District 50 in the Sky City to die. Wang Xian responded in a stern voice. With a wave of his dragon claw, he charged toward the Eternal Lord-level powerhouses. Ah, save me, City Lord Commander, save me. The faces of all the Sky City's powerhouses in the 50th region turned pale instantly as they begged for mercy desperately. However, the Sky City's people in the 50th region were no match for the members of the Dragon Palace. They were all killed quickly. Because of the Dragon Palace's attack, some of the sea monsters flew up to the Wall of Protection. The Federation sergeants on the Wall of Protection responded with pale faces. Sky City, what the fuck are you doing? Do you want to kill the entire human race? A general in the area guarded by the Land of Battle techniques roared angrily. Why did the general of the 50th region deliberately attract the two peak god-level sea monsters to other regions? Do you want to be a sinner of the human race in the Tianzi continent? Commander Xian, who was at the mysterious sky territory, also roared with a face full of anger. Everyone on the Wall of Protection was extremely furious. They were extremely shocked that General Wang was not someone from the Tianzi continent. Now, someone was helping to guard the area and had achieved great results. Now, someone was actually trying to harm the other party. This caused the other party to directly abandon the defense. The general of the 50th region was simply courting death. Chapter 2392. 2392-2392 will be sentenced to death. General Wang, please stop, please stop. Just when everyone in the Wall of Protection was furious at the general of the 50th district, the Supreme Commander flew to the 50th district and immediately shouted at Wang Xian. I'm sorry, Supreme Commander. He caused the death of a disciple of the Dragon Palace. I have to bury the entire 50th district with him. If anyone dares to stop him, we will fight. Wang Xian glanced at the Supreme Commander. His eyes were filled with incomparable coldness. He didn't show any mercy at all. Commander Zue Wan, this is what the city in the sky has done. Our Area 57 has just finished dealing with the sea monsters and is preparing to come and support you. Is this what you have done? The general of the Area 57 had also rushed over. He glared at the commander of the city in the sky who was fighting against the sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm and questioned him. I didn't give any orders. The commander of Sky City clenched his fists and roared furiously when he saw this scene. He didn't expect such a situation. Supreme Commander, save me. Save me. Beside him, the soldiers of Sky City of the 50th region begged for mercy in fear. With 1,500 Divine Lord Realm experts and Wang Xian's continuous attacks, hundreds of thousands of Sky City's experts had already died at his hands. It might not be long before everyone in District 50 would be killed. Meanwhile, the soldiers who came to support the people who did not belong to Sky City were furious and did not participate in the battle. Instead, they were watching from the Wall of Protection. Many of them had noticed when City Lord Liang led the two masters of the God Realm sea monsters earlier. Now that the Dragon Palace's army was so strong, they would not be foolish enough to send themselves to their deaths. At this moment, even if they did not fight, the Supreme Commander would not say anything. Damn it. The Supreme Commander also stared at City Lord Liang with a face full of killing intent. This damn fellow had caused great losses to the human race. Dragon King, we can discuss this properly. The Supreme Commander said with an embarrassed expression. At this moment, they had to calm down Wang Xian's anger as soon as possible. Otherwise, the human race would be in even more danger. Their fight might cause billions of human casualties or even extinction. Wang Xian ignored him and continued to kill the people of the city in the sky with murderous intent. City Lord Liang was floating in the distance. He didn't dare to attack Wang Xian at all. Damn it. I am the highest commander of the Federation. I hereby exercise my authority to enforce the law. General of the 50th District, City Lord Liang of the Peerless City in the Sky, has violated the interests of the humans of the Tianzi continent. I don't care about the crisis of the Tianzi continent. I hereby announce that I am taking the order of City Lord Liang. Do any of the generals of the Tianzi continent object to this? The Supreme Commander clenched his fists, gritted his teeth and announced loudly. General Wang, take his head. I hope that you can consider the interests of the humans of the Tianzi continent. After he announced, he looked at Wang Xian and said in a deep voice. Let him die immediately. I will continue to protect this place. Wang Xian replied coldly. No objection. It's a catastrophe for us humans. How dare a general do such a thing? He should be killed. He should be killed. City in the sky, give me an explanation. Hurry up. Is that guy trying to kill all of us humans? After the Supreme Commander made the announcement, furious voices were heard immediately. Only some of the powerhouses in City in the Sky remained silent. Clearly, even though General Wang was unbridled, he had killed numerous peak God Lord sea monsters for the humans and freed many generals. Now that City Lord Liang had broken the rules, he had to pay the price. You. At this moment, City Lord Liang's face instantly turned pale. His body trembled and his eyes were filled with panic. City Lord Liang, look, all the soldiers around you have died because of you. Kill yourself immediately. If you dare to resist, kill all your descendants. The eyes of the highest commander were filled with viciousness as he sternly ordered City Lord Liang. No, no, Commander, Commander. City Lord Liang's face was filled with fear as he looked at the commander of Sky City. City Lord Liang, I will help you take care of your descendants. The commander of Sky City growled in a low voice with an incomparably ugly expression. No, Commander, I don't want to die. City Lord Liang's face was filled with shock when he heard his words, and his face was filled with terror as he growled. If you don't die, it will be difficult to settle the grievances of the masses. Furthermore, that fellow will continue to kill our Sky City's members. In the current situation, you have offended the masses. The commander of Sky City immediately transmitted his voice to him. Commander, you clearly agreed just now. I will take good care of your descendants. This is the best choice. City Lord Liang's face was filled with unwillingness, and his eyes almost popped out. The City in the Sky commander interrupted him and said in a deep voice. The commander's words caused City Lord Liang to fall silent, and his face turned ashen. He knew that this time he was completely doomed. If he didn't want to die, his descendants would definitely die as well. All right. Commander, I will take full responsibility for this matter. I only have one request. Kill him. I will wait for him below. City Lord Liang's body trembled as he transmitted his voice. Don't worry, our City in the Sky will definitely kill him. A terrifying killing intent surged from the City in the Sky commander. Haha, Wang Xian, General Wang, I will wait for you below. I will wait for you. Hearing the words of the City in the Sky commander, City Lord Liang shouted with a mournful expression. Boom. As soon as he finished his sentence, his entire body exploded. When everyone heard the terrifying explosion, their expressions changed slightly. Bus. Wang Xian waved his arm. Waves of the 5 elements law that had been destroyed washed away every drop of his blood, preventing his blood from being reborn. General Wang, are you satisfied? Now please stop the killing. The highest commander heaved a sigh of relief and said to Wang Xian. All right. Wang Xian nodded and stopped attacking. In fact, most of the people from Sky City in District 50 had been killed. Now, there was no need for Wang Xian to shed all pretense of cordiality with the humans of the entire Tianzi continent. He wanted to raise his strength to the immortal godly king level as soon as possible. Before long, the high and mighty Sky City would fall. All the disciples of the Dragon Palace, follow me back. Wang Xian said immediately and flew towards the Dragon Palace. Ao Xingmu was still fighting against 2 peak stage Master God level sea monsters there. He wanted to rush over to support them as soon as possible. General Xian, please guard the 50th section. The highest commander heaved a sigh of relief. He looked around and saw that there were not many soldiers guarding the area. Some of the sea monsters had already flown to the wall of protection. All right. The general of Area 57 nodded his head. As the general of the Tianzi continent, he knew what to do in the face of this calamity. People like City Lord Liang deserve to die. Kill? Wang Xian led the members of the Dragon Palace and flew over. They immediately charged into the battlefield. Area 5-1 and Area 5-2 had never been used because of the cannonballs. Even though Wang Xian had left, the sergeant immediately bombarded them with cannonballs. Nothing happened. However, Ao Xingmu managed to fend off the 2 God Lord Pinnacle battle pets with great difficulty. Chapter 2393. 2393. Another incident happened. Kill? Wang Xian immediately charged into the battlefield between Ao Xingmu and the 2 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm. Ao Yao, who was hiding in the surroundings, was waiting for an opportunity to strike. However, the two sea monsters seemed to have sensed something and were very alert to their surroundings. The sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm were not fools. Ao Yao had once severely injured City Lord Liang in front of them. Dragon King, the members of the Dragon Palace have received a substantial increase in their combat strength. In addition, a strange demon's combat strength has now reached the peak of the Master God realm. At this moment, Prime Minister Gui's voice was heard. "Oh, get that strange demon to come over and participate in the battle immediately." Wang Xian's face lit up as he said immediately, "It's the Dragon King." Prime Minister Gui nodded his head. Soon a shadow flashed behind Wang Xian. "Dragon King, leave this sea monster to us. We will definitely kill it within 3 seconds. Ao Yaoyao's confident voice entered Wang Xian's mind. "All right." He smiled and nodded his head immediately. The next moment, a black and white shadow flashed behind the sea monster. Roar! The sea monster raised its huge palm and slapped at Ao Yao. Bang! The sea monster blocked Ao Yao's attack. Pooh! But in the next moment, an extremely strange black and white figure appeared above its head. The figure's arm was placed on its head, and a bewitching smile appeared on its face. A thorn dragon had an 80% to 90% chance of assassinating an existence of the same level. However, if two thorn dragon species were to assassinate an existence of the same level at the same time, the opponent would definitely die. Roar! Roar! The other sea monster at the peak of the Master God level let out a furious roar. However, these sea monsters were clearly given a death order by the Master God level sea monster and did not dare to escape. Next, killing the other sea monster at the peak of the Master God level would be much easier. There are still 4 more to go. Wang Xian looked at his attributes. As long as he could devour another 4 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm, he would be able to increase his attributes. Generals of Shen-Tian, where are the sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm that have yet to be dealt with? Wang Xian moved his body and flew out of the surface of the sea. His mighty voice spread to the surroundings. Hiss, that General Wang and the rest are so terrifying. Didn't the general of Area 50 lure 2 sea monsters to their area just now? How did they get rid of them so quickly? They are so fast. They were still entangled with Area 50 just now, and now they are free again. Everyone who heard Wang Xian's words had a look of surprise on their faces. However, soon after, a smile appeared on their faces. The stronger General Wang was, the better it would be for them. Good. General Wang, Area 59 needs reinforcements. Ah. Commander Shen's voice was heard from Area 59. I'll be there soon. Wang Xian moved his body and teleported to Area 59 instantly. That's great. If Wang Xian can free Commander Shen and the rest of the people from Area 59, the situation will basically be stabilized. In the main command room, the highest commander clenched his fists. His face revealed an extremely excited voice. What terrifying strength! It will be very difficult to kill him without the help of the godly king. In the 50th region, the commander of Sky City frowned with a complicated expression on his face. The enmity between Sky City and the other party had been completely formed. Now that the other party was strong, it would be very beneficial to the humans. However, it would definitely be a big trouble for Sky City in the future. In just a month, 2 peak stage godly master experts had died at the other party's hands, and there were also many godly master experts. Just now, the Dragon Palace army had killed 700 to 800 eternal divine lords. He must die. Let the Patriarch do it. If the Patriarch knows about such an enemy, he will do it himself. And maybe the Patriarch can get information about the formation from him. A determined look appeared in the eyes of the commander of Sky City. He had already made up his mind to kill Wang Xian in the shortest time possible. Haha, brother, Wang Xian is here. At Area 59, when Commander Shen saw Wang Xian flying over, a smile appeared on his face. Let's kill these 3 beasts first. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the battlefield and said with a smile. There were 4 sea monsters at the peak of the Divine Lord realm in Area 59. One of them was killed by Commander Shen. There were 3 more. He could still deal with 3 of them by himself with ease. An array master could fight above his level. The more arrays he had, the stronger he would be. The experts from the Shen-Tian territory had yet to achieve the ability to fight above his level. However, as the strongest expert below Shantianzi in the Shantian territory, it would not be a problem for him to deal with 3 to 4 of the same level. Commander Xian's strength was one of the strongest existences below the Master God level in the entire Tianzi continent. 3 of them. Soon. Wang Xian saw the 3 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm on the battlefield and rushed over in an instant. Commander Xian, who was already at a disadvantage, had it much easier with Wang Xian's help. Under the continuous attacks of the 2 thorn dragon species, the 3 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm were all killed in less than 5 minutes. Good. Commander Xian's gaze swept across Ao Yao and the rest. His eyes revealed a look of shock as he laughed out loud and said the 3 words, good. Haha, good, the humans will definitely win. Commander Xian invites you to the 63rd region. At this moment, the Supreme Commander's voice also rang out, and his face was filled with excitement as he laughed loudly. At this moment, he had already seen the hope of victory. When everyone on the Guardian Wall heard the Supreme Commander's words, their hearts also relaxed. Some people could not help but reveal smiles of having survived a disaster. Dragon King, something has happened at the bottom of the sea. A large number of level 8 sea monsters have rushed out. Among them, there are sea monsters at the peak of the Eternal Lord level. However, at this moment, Ao Xingmu's voice suddenly rang out. Ha! At this moment, Wang Xian was still in the sea and had just devoured the corpses of 3 peak of the Eternal Lord level sea monsters. When he heard Ao Xingmu's voice transmission, he was slightly shocked. He immediately looked at the bottom of the ocean below him. The dragon eyes of the yin-yang 5 elements penetrated through the layers of seawater. Very soon, he realized that thousands of sea monsters were charging at him from below. Thousands of sea monsters were nothing compared to the sea monsters' army. However, every single one of them exuded a strength that was no less than the 8th level of the Eternal Divine Lord realm. Oh no, it's those sea monsters that are devouring the netherworld sea monsters at the bottom of the sea. Something big has happened. Wang Xian's expression changed. Not long ago, when he entered the bottom of the sea, he discovered that these young sea monsters that were devouring the netherworld sea monsters at the level 8 of the Eternal Lord were devouring the corpses. How can they grow so fast? How is this possible? Wang Xian had a bad premonition in his heart. Everyone be careful. There are a large number of level 8 sea monsters at the bottom of the sea. Among them, there are some at the peak of the Master God realm. Wang Xian immediately rushed out of the water and shouted at everyone. His voice instantly spread to everyone on the wall of protection. What? At this moment, everyone's expression changed drastically. No one doubted that Wang Xian's words were fake. The bottom of the sea. There is a huge crisis coming out from the bottom of the sea. One by one, the experts looked towards the bottom of the sea. Very soon, they could feel waves of barbaric aura rushing towards them. Chapter 2394. 2394-2394 stirred up trouble again. Everyone be careful. Retreat to the wall of protection. In the main command room, the Supreme Commander's expression changed drastically when he heard Wang Xian and the rest of the general's words. He immediately made a decision. Retreat. The experts immediately gave the order. Walala. Boom. However, in front of the wall of protection, many people were fighting against the sea monsters. There was no way for them to escape. One by one, pitch-black, irregular-shaped sea monsters rushed out from the bottom of the sea like mud, directly attacking one person after another. Roar. Along with them, there were many peak God Lord level sea monsters. Ah! Oh no, a powerful sea monster has rushed out. Another peak God Lord level sea monster has appeared in Area 45, requesting reinforcements. In an instant, the entire area ahead was in complete chaos. Many experts were instantly killed by the sea monsters that charged out. Even if there were a few hundred sea monsters of the lowest rank of Eternal God Lord, it would still be a terrifying number. Moreover, there was also a peak God Lord sea monster appearing. Defend with all your might. The highest commander in the main command room saw the scene in front of him. His eyes instantly turned blood red as he shouted sternly. A peak God Lord sea monster has appeared in Zone 33. Requesting reinforcements. Not good. More than 700 God Lord rank 8 sea monsters have appeared in Zone 25. Requesting reinforcements. A large number of God Lord rank 8 sea monsters have appeared in Zone 40. We can't hold them off. Cries for help were heard from the generals of the various zones. The sudden appearance of the swallowing netherworld sea monster had instantly caused the deaths of millions of people. 70% of the area of the wall of protection was in danger. Bus, bus, bus. When Wang Xian noticed that there was a problem at the bottom of the sea, he immediately teleported to Area 51 to 52. As soon as he arrived, Wang Xian saw Ao Xingmu fighting against 2 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm. There were more than 1,000 Master God level 8 sea monsters around him. There were also many more members of the Dragon Palace where the Dragon Palace was guarding. Dragon King, the situation is critical. I will order the 5,000 Master God realm members to join the battle immediately. Prime Minister Gui's voice was heard. These 5,000 members of the Dragon Palace were the experts trained in the past 10 days. Each of them had the combat strength of an eternal Master God and above. Even so, it was still very difficult to deal with over 1,000 Master God realm level 8 sea monsters. If not for a few level 9 sea monsters, the Dragon Palace would have suffered heavy losses. This was the case even with the Dragon Palace's strength, not to mention other places. Let's kill the 2 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm first. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the 2 sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm. His eyes shone brightly. Ao Yao, lock onto one and kill it first. Wang Xian shouted softly and immediately locked onto one of the sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm. He only lacked one now. He only needed the last sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm to upgrade himself. Bus, bus, bus. Wang Xian rushed over. Ao Yao and the rest immediately carried out an assassination. Roar. Wang Xian could not help but let out a roar when he saw the sea monster that was severely injured and on the verge of death. His head turned into a dragon's head and headed straight for the sea monster to devour it. Boom, boom, boom. The sea monster at the peak of the Master God level entered his body and turned into an extremely dense dragon energy. An incomparably majestic aura burst out from his body instantly. The bodies of all the sea monsters in the surroundings trembled slightly. Their eyes were filled with horror. Wang Xian closed his eyes slightly and a phantom of a divine dragon appeared around him. The phantom of the divine dragon was 10,000 meters long and every dragon scale was vivid and lifelike. The 7-colored divine dragon circled around his body and entered his mouth directly. Buzz. Wang Xian opened his eyes abruptly and 7-colored scales appeared around his body. These were the material scales formed from the laws of 7 attributes. The Eternal Lord had comprehended laws and this law was mixed in the attributes. As for the Eternal God King, he made the laws materialize. The purer the laws were, the stronger the attack power was. The fire attribute law fire could materialize directly and could burn for hundreds of millions of years. The God King realm was the process of materializing the laws. And if the God King wanted to improve further, he needed to comprehend his own laws and supernatural powers. This was not something that Wang Xian could deal with at the moment. Wang Xian's current realm was only level 5 of the Eternal Celestial Master. The reason why he could have a combat strength that was comparable to level 1 of the Immortal Celestial Master was because the 7 attributes were compressed together and the laws were materialized. As long as he used his strength, the laws would be condensed around him. His entire being was incomparably vast. Name Wang Xian. Race, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Divine Dragon, Mandragon Unity. Level, Eternal Divine Lord Level 5, Divine Dragon Transformation Level 6. Origin, 44 tenths, 000. Supernatural ability, Rule the Water Tribe below one's level. Devour living beings to extract origin. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method, Divine Dragon Transformation. Supernatural ability, Soul Absorbing, Spirit Attaching, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Dragon Eyes. Aspect, 5 Elements Great Mill, Dragon Kingdom in the palm, Dragon Head under the heavens, Dragon Body of 10,000 miles, Yin-Yang Poles, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Arms Bowl, Divine Dragon Tail Swing. Law, Metal, Wood, Water, Fire, Earth, Light and Darkness, Level 5. Kingdom of God, Dragon Palace. Dragon Palace owned, Level 7. Member of Dragon Palace, 166,693. After taking a glance at his attributes, Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. He had finally taken this step. The current him was no longer a weakling in the entire greater world. Whoosh. Wang Xian looked at the thousands of level 8 sea monsters and a sea monster at the peak of the Master God realm in front of him and waved his arm. A dazzling 7-colored ray of light swept across the area in front of him and instantly covered more than 10,000 kilometers. Bang! With just one strike, he killed all the sea monsters within a radius of more than 10,000 kilometers. Level 8 sea monsters that were at the peak of the Master God level and the Eternal Master God level. His footsteps were light. He directly stepped to the right and activated the laws under his feet. Immediately he was 10,000 kilometers away. Crush. With a wave of his arm, he covered another 10,000 kilometers. Wang Xian moved step by step. It took less than 2 minutes for him to cover more than 800,000 kilometers. In just 2 minutes, more than 1 billion sea monsters had died at his hands. Warning! Warning! Everyone return to the wall of protection. Immediately. We are about to activate the defensive formation set up by Prince Shen Tianzi. Everyone return immediately. At this moment, the voice of the Supreme Commander rang out. Everyone's face sank when they heard this order, and their eyes revealed a look of horror. The final defensive formation was set up by Son of God Shen Tianzi. Once the formation was activated, it meant that this was the final line of defense. Once it was broken through, what awaited the humans was death. However, at this time, 70% of the regions had suffered heavy damage, and there were even many peak Godlord experts who had fallen. The humans could no longer hold on. Now they could only fight for the last bit of time to find a solution. Or they could wait for the return of the God King to kill this group of sea monsters. The third calamity of the Tianzhe continent might completely erupt. Chapter 2395. 2395. General Wang in exchange for reinforcements. Ha! At the bottom of the sea in front of Area 51 and 52, Wang Xian heard the voice of the highest commander. He frowned slightly. His body moved and he immediately stood on the surface of the sea. Bus. Just as he was about to speak, layers of solid laws were flashing on the wall of protection behind him. General Wang, come back quickly. Humans can pass through the formation. At the position of the wall of protection, Ling Qinyan shouted loudly when she saw Wang Xian standing on the surface of the sea. Wang Xian took a glance at the positions on both sides. The increase in his strength had greatly increased his vision. Everyone tried their best to escape into the wall of protection. One by one, the sea monsters charged towards the wall of protection and were immediately blocked by the solid laws. All human generals, masters of level 8 and above, come to the main command room to discuss the battle situation. All human generals, Godlord level 8 and above, come to the main command room to discuss the battle situation. At this moment, a mechanical voice sounded in every area, causing the faces of all the powerhouses to sink slightly. Prime Minister Gue, bring some members of the Dragon Palace to the wall of protection. Wang Xian also heard this voice. He hesitated for a moment and decided not to go over. Now that he had just leveled up to the Immortal King level, there were so many powerful sea monsters around him. Naturally, he had to hunt them down. Not to mention leveling up himself, he had to at least let one member of the Dragon Palace possess the combat strength of an Immortal King. With the combat strength of the 2 Immortal Kings of the Dragon Palace, it would be much easier to deal with the city in the sky. Other than that, it would be best if he could also upgrade some of the peak experts of the Dragon Palace. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gue and the rest nodded and led the members of the Dragon Palace to the top of the wall of protection. The rest of the members of the Dragon Palace immediately entered the Dragon Palace. Ao Xingmu, enter the Dragon Pool of the Dragon Palace and prepare to be promoted again. You will have the combat strength of an Immortal King. Wang Xian looked at Ao Xingmu and said immediately, it's the Dragon King. Ao Xingmu nodded his head. Just now, Wang Xian had killed more than 1 billion sea monsters. Among them, there were more than 1,000 level 8 Eternal Celestial Master and 1 Peak Stage Celestial Master. With these resources added together, Wang Xian only needed to kill another 4 or 5 Peak Stage Celestial Master sea monsters to upgrade Ao Xingmu. The upgrade of the members of the Dragon Palace required more resources than Wang Xian. Ao Yao, follow me. Wang Xian said as he looked towards the 53rd region on the right. At the 53rd region, everyone had retreated to the wall of protection. Due to the protection of the King of Gods formation, all the soldiers had collapsed on the wall of protection. In the 53rd region, at least hundreds of millions of sea monsters had gathered in front of the wall of protection and were attacking non-stop. Especially at the front, 500 to 600 Master God level 8 devouring netherworld sea monsters were slapping their bodies. There was also a Master God level pinnacle sea monster among them. Laws revolved around Wang Xian's body and he instantly arrived at the bottom of the 53rd region's sea. Crack, crack, crack. Wang Xian spread his arms and 7 colored laws attacked the Master God level pinnacle sea monster and 500 to 600 devouring netherworld sea monsters. Roar, roar, roar. In an instant, the faces of the powerful sea monsters were filled with terrified roars. Wang Xian pulled gently, causing all the sea monsters to enter the position at the bottom of the sea. Following that, in the sea in front of Area 53, the sea monsters entered the sea and disappeared quickly. What happened? Why did the sea monsters in front of us disappear? Did they dive to the bottom of the sea? Are these sea monsters up to something? In Area 53, some people noticed the situation in front of them and were filled with curiosity. There are so many swallowing netherworld sea monsters. There are 500 to 600 of them in one area. There are more than 70 areas in total. Doesn't that mean there are more than 40,000 of them? More than 40,000 level 8 Eternal God Lord sea monsters. At this moment at the bottom of the sea, Wang Xian was flying rapidly towards Area 54. The number of level 8 sea monsters was so many that it shocked Wang Xian. However, such a number also surprised Wang Xian. He only needed to clear 2 or 3 more regions to enable Ao Xingmu to possess the strength of an immortal king. In addition, as long as he killed a few more regions, the strength of the other disciples of the Dragon Palace would receive a terrifying increase. This calamity is a huge opportunity for the Dragon Palace. A smile appeared on his face as he flew swiftly to the right. While Wang Xian was hunting crazily, more than 2,000 experts were gathered in the main command room. The weakest one among them was at level 8 of the Eternal Lord. With such strength, he could be considered as the core of the humans in the Tianzi continent. There were more than 2,000 rank 8 God Lords and above, but there were not many of them. Over the past 10 days of battle, at least 700 to 800 top-tier experts had fallen. At this moment, the command center was in a panic. The scene on the screen of the command center revealed extremely ugly expressions. In every region, there were at least 500 to 600 rank 8 God Lords and at least 1 peak God Lord expert. In most places there were 2 or even 3 of them. Compared to the strength of the sea monsters, the strength of humans was simply overwhelming. At this time the humans could no longer resist. What's the situation with the 4 God Kings? In this situation only the God Kings can come and help, otherwise. An expert could not help but ask. The defense of the wall of protection can last for 1.5 days. In this 1.5 days we have to find a way to survive. Otherwise if this place is lost the humans will enter the Dark Era. I have already contacted the godly monarchs. The 4 godly monarchs have yet to reply. The highest commander stood at the front and said in a deep voice, "Then what do we do now? What about our Tianzi continent?" A general frowned and asked. Once this place was lost, the humans would become food for the sea monsters. At that time, tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of people would face death. That's right, we have already lost hundreds of millions of people, and more than a dozen peak God Lord experts have died. A general quickly echoed. Everyone seemed to be shrouded in a haze, and a hint of despair flashed in their eyes. There are only 2 ways now. Our God King has received a report that we can come and deal with the sea monsters. The other thing is that we can find other planet experts to help us get through this difficult situation. The highest commander's face was heavy as he looked at everyone and sighed in his heart. There are too many uncertainties with the God Emperor, let's see if we can find support. A general from the Federation frowned and asked, "Can't your Federation do it? Commander, isn't your son in the Heavenly Law sect? He was even taken in as a disciple by the God Emperor." A general from the Sword Domain looked at the commander and asked, "We've already requested for reinforcements, but the Heavenly Law sect God Emperor wants to know if the Undying Sea Monsters will participate. Also, can we take out resources that the Undying God Emperor is willing to take out? After all, we have over a dozen sea monsters in the Tianzi continent." The highest commander said helplessly. Chapter 2396. 2396-2396 used General Wang to exchange for support. The sea monsters of the Tianzhe continent weren't weak. Asking for support from other planets, even offering rewards, one first had to know the level and number of sea monsters one had to fight. Secondly, one had to offer a price that would tempt the undying emperor. Even asking for support from the Tianfa men of the Star Source planet was the same. The Heavenly Law sect also knew the strength of the undersea sea monsters in the Tianzhe continent. There were over a dozen undying emperor sea monsters. How many undying emperor sea monsters were involved in this calamity? What if one or two undying emperors from the Heavenly Law sect came and were attacked by the undersea undying emperor sea monsters? The Heavenly Law sect would not let the undying emperor take the risk. After all, every undying emperor was extremely precious. Other than that, to ask the Heavenly Law sect for reinforcements, it would require at least 4 God Emperors to speak up. God Emperor versus God Emperor. If others asked for reinforcements, the other side would not even care about you. The entire commander room's atmosphere was heavy, everyone's expressions were extremely ugly. They had reached the most critical juncture of the Tianzhe continent. It was related to the survival of the entire Tianzhe continent. At the rear, the entire Heaven's Selection continent was aware of the news at the front line. Everyone was standing in the open space or floating in the sky, nervously looking in the direction of the wall of protection. Once this place was lost, the entire Heaven Lake continent would definitely be in turmoil. Can you contact the higher-ups of the Heaven Beast Corporation? In the front of the command center, the eyes of the commander of Sky City were shining. He suddenly looked at an old man at the side and transmitted his voice. The old man was a level 9 Eternal God Lord, and his strength was not weak. Commander Duan, our Divine Pet Pavilion only has the contact information of a peak God Lord from the Heaven Beast group, but they won't come to help us. The old man was slightly stunned, and then he said bitterly, "Tell them if we take out the array formation that can trap the Eternal God Lord, are they willing to help us?" A hint of coldness flashed in Commander Duan's eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. "Huh?" The old man was slightly startled, and his eyes shone. As a high-ranking member of the Pet God Pavilion, he also knew a little about General Wang's matter. After all, the master of the Pet God Pavilion had died at the hands of General Wang. "Yes, I'll contact him immediately. If we really use General Wang's formation to exchange for it, the other party has an 80% chance of not rejecting it," the old man said with some certainty. After all, that kind of formation had only been heard of in the greater world by the Witch Formation Association and 1 or 2 top-tier factions. For a faction that sold war pets, the value of this kind of formation was immeasurable. Commander Duan, have you thought of a way?" The sword master from the northern region across them frowned and asked when he saw their small actions. "We're trying to contact them. I don't know if we can succeed." Commander Duan scanned his surroundings and said, "I feel that there's an 80% chance, but there must be sacrifices." 80%? Commander Duan, are you for real? Is there really an 80% chance? Sacrifices? Even if there are sacrifices, can we sacrifice hundreds of billions of people? We can withstand a little bit of sacrifice. When the surrounding experts heard his words, their eyes revealed an incomparably fervent expression as they excitedly said, "Commander Duan, there's really a way. Sacrificing some is nothing." The Supreme Commander's expression also changed slightly as he immediately spoke. "Let's wait for the news." Commander Duan revealed a trace of a smile on his face as he spoke indifferently. Everyone's breathing became slightly hurried as their gazes stared fixedly at the old man from the God Pet Pavilion. Their faces were filled with anticipation. Seconds and minutes passed by. "News has arrived. Commander Duan, the other party has agreed." The other party said that if it's true, they are willing to send the godly monarch to help us tide over this crisis. After a full hour of silence, the old man from the Pet God Pavilion spoke with an excited expression. Good, ha." Commander Duan was also filled with joy and could not help but laugh out loud. "We found support? Who's coming to support us?" "Commander Duan, who's coming to support us?" At this moment, the more than 2,000 experts around him were also looking at him with excitement. Their eyes were filled with eagerness. Everyone should be clear about the strength of the Heaven Beast Corporation that we are seeking help from. Commander Duan scanned his surroundings and didn't hide anything. This matter was originally a plot against Wang Xian. The Heaven Beast Corporation? Why would the Heaven Beast Corporation help us? We have no connection with them at all. The Supreme Commander frowned and asked in puzzlement. The rest of them were also astonished. We have no connection with them in the natural selection continent, and they wouldn't help us for no reason. However, we have something here in the Tianzi continent that can tempt the entire Heaven Beast Corporation. Commander Duan revealed a faint smile. What is it? At this time, Commander Duan, please speak quickly. A general couldn't help but urge. An array formation that can trap eternal Godlord powerhouses. If the Heaven Beast Corporation can obtain this array formation, they are willing to send immortal God Kings to assist. Commander Duan said. Oh, our mysterious sky territory doesn't have such an array formation. Commander Xian immediately frowned and said when he heard his words. The array formation of the Heavenly Lake continent naturally depended on the mysterious sky territory. I know that the mysterious sky territory doesn't have such an array formation, but General Wang does. The reason why he can capture so many battle pets is because of this array formation. This point, our Sky City can be 100% sure. Commander Duan said coldly. Oh, you mean to ask General Wang to hand over this formation? I don't agree on this point. Commander Xian frowned and immediately refused. We have all witnessed General Wang's meritorious service just now. He is not from our Tianzi continent to begin with, and he could fight for our Tianzi continent. Now he wants to burn the bridge after crossing the river? Such a despicable act, our mysterious sky territory can't do it. General Xianzhen also rejected with a cold expression. Now it is not a matter of despicable acts. It is the life and death of the entire human race in the Tianzi continent. Someone has to be sacrificed. It is just as well that General Wang is not from our Tianzi continent. What? When it comes to the life and death of our Tianzi continent, do you still care about such a little act? Also, we are not taking General Wang's life. We just want some things. There is no loss for him. Commander Duan coldly retorted when he heard Commander Xian's words. As long as we can save the Tianzi continent, we have to do it by hook or by crook. This time, even if we really want General Wang's life, we have to do it. I support Commander Duan. Over at the northern region sword master immediately said. That's right. Is a formation more important, or is the life of the entire Tianzi continent more important? So what if we burn the bridge after crossing the river and save the hundreds of billions of people of our Tianzi continent? The experts of Sky City also spoke up one after another. Chapter 2397. 2397 2397 Dragon King. Godly King. 1. Commander Duan of Sky City's plan was to get General Wang to hand over the array formation that could trap the Eternal God Lord in exchange for the support of the Heaven Beast Corporation. Many people did not have any objections. On the contrary, this was the best choice for the Heaven Lake continent. It was just a single array formation. Many people from the Sword Domain and the Federation were in favor of it. However, many people from the Shen Heaven Domain and the Land of Combat Arts frowned. Their expressions were ugly. Needless to say, the relationship between Wang Xian and the Shen Heaven Domain. Needless to say, the relationship between Wang Xian and the Land of Combat Arts was unbeatable. Unbeatable combat arts was the future of their aristocratic families of combat arts. Although this plan was a better one, they didn't agree with it very much. General Wang is a hero of our Tianzi continent after all. Without him, we might not have been able to last until now. Such behavior is a bit too much. Our invincible battle technique in the Land of Battle Techniques has been accepted as a disciple by the Overlord sect leader. We can try to ask for the Overlord sect's support. The clan elder of the Land of Battle Techniques took 2 steps forward and said indifferently. Oh? Commander Duan frowned slightly when he heard his words and saw the clan elder of the War Strategy Land walking out. Elder of the War Strategy Land, we don't have much time left. Are you sure that the Overlord sect will come to support us? Commander Duan immediately asked. Elder of the War Strategy Land, it would be even better if the Overlord sect could help us. The Supreme Commander also said at this moment. Currently we haven't contacted Invincible. We're not too sure. The Elder of Battle Tactics clan shook his head slightly. In fact, they couldn't contact Invincible Battle Tactics during this period of time. Invincible battle tactics had also told his parents not long ago that his master had asked him to go into seclusion. Perhaps if they were given some time, they could contact the other members of Overlord clan and inform Invincible battle tactics. But now the time was too short. They only had a little more than a day. Moreover, being able to contact them was one thing, but whether the Overlord sect agreed or not was another matter. Right now, we don't have so much time to continue waiting. If everyone doesn't have any other methods, then do as I say. The corners of Commander Duan's mouth curled up slightly as he made a faint decision. The Supreme Commander's expression changed as he slowly sat down. He wasn't inclined to let General Wang exchange the formation for reinforcements, but was there a better method now? If there wasn't, as the Supreme Commander of humanity, he still had these 100 billion people behind him. He had to agree to this method. Buzz. Right at this moment, a halo in front of him trembled, and a phantom appeared in the room. Upon seeing this phantom, everyone's expression changed, immediately revealing a respectful expression. Greetings, Sky God Emperor. All the experts hurriedly bowed. The situation in the depths of the ocean is critical. Shen Tianzi God Emperor is fighting 4 undying God King sea monsters alone, and the 3 of us are fighting 1 each. We have no time to care about the wall of protection. The moment the virtual image appeared, he immediately spoke up. As the virtual image spoke, it was fluctuating continuously as if it could disappear at any moment. Celestial King, we have a way to get the Celestial King of the Heaven Beast Corporation to come over and assist us. We can get that Wang Xian to hand over the array formation that trapped the Eternal God Lord. The Heaven Beast Corporation has also agreed to it. Commander Duan immediately spoke up. Oh, alright, get that Wang Xian to hand over the array formation immediately. We will keep a portion for ourselves. If he does not agree, we will kill him directly. The Sky Celestial King had some understanding of Wang Xian's matter. When he heard the report from his subordinates, he did not hesitate at all and immediately gave the order. Yes. Commander Duan immediately replied. Ping. As soon as he finished his words, the phantom exploded. Clearly, the Sky Celestial King was in a situation where he could not even control a single phantom. Damn it, there are actually 7 immortal King Sea monsters working together. Where is that Wang Xian now? Why isn't he here? Immediately capture that Wang Xian and get him to hand over that array formation. Otherwise, our Tianzhe continent will really be finished. The phantom of the Celestial King in the sky exploded. Many experts shouted with anxious faces. 7 immortal King Sea monsters actually attacked humans at the same time. This was the largest number of immortal King Sea monsters in history. At the same time, everyone was extremely shocked that Shen Tianzi could fight 4 against 1. Everyone, General Wang is a member of our mysterious sky territory. He has a good relationship with our patriarch. Not everyone can touch him. When Shen Jinsho heard the surrounding words, he immediately said with a cold expression, General of the mysterious sky territory, do you still want to protect General Wang at a time like this? Lord Shen Tianzi was attacked by 4 undying godly monarch sea monsters at the same time. A general of the sword territory immediately said, regarding the array formation, our people of the mysterious sky territory will speak to General Wang. Commander Shen said coldly as he swept his gaze across everyone. Does anyone have any objections? The experts from the other factions opened their mouths slightly but did not say a word. After all, Sky Godly Monarch had said that Shen Tianzi was fighting 4 against 1. This was also a faction of the mysterious sky territory. We naturally have no problems with it, but General Wang is not someone from our Heavenly Lake continent after all. Commander Duan said indifferently. As long as you do not attack him, he will naturally fight alongside our Heavenly Lake continent. Commander Shen said coldly as he looked at the Mystic Guardian General and the others. Let's go. With that said, he flew straight out in the direction of Area 51. Humph. Commander Duan snorted coldly as he grabbed with his palm. Let's follow him. The other party is not from the Tianzi continent. We can't let him escape. If the other party really wants to escape. He did not speak, but everyone understood what he meant. The Tianzi continent is on the brink of life and death. Even if some people are sacrificed, Shen Tianzi Divine King will not say anything. Sword Domain Swordmaster echoed as he swept his gaze across the surrounding experts. Other than the experts from the Combat Techniques aristocratic clan who did not nod their heads, the other experts also agreed. Buzz buzz buzz. What are we experts going to do? Have we found a way to survive? More than 2,000 experts flew out from the main command room. Everyone on the protective wall looked over with faces full of hope. Prime Minister Gue, where's General Wang? At District 51, Commander Xian and the rest were the first to arrive. They scanned their surroundings and asked with a frown. Commander Xian, our Dragon King is still in the ocean. What's the matter? Prime Minister Gue looked at them and saw a group of experts flying over from behind. He asked in puzzlement. I have some matters to discuss with General Wang. Can you call him General Wang? Commander Xian sighed and said. Sure. Prime Minister Gui's eyes flickered. He immediately sent a voice transmission to Wang Xian. At this moment, at the location of Area 57, Wang Xian was killing sea monsters at a rapid speed. When he heard Prime Minister Gui's voice transmission, he was slightly stunned. What's going on? All the experts are looking for me? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. Without any hesitation, he flew toward District 51. Now, Ao Xingmu had gathered all the resources to upgrade. Furthermore, there were still many resources that could help the members of the Dragon Palace to improve tremendously. Chapter 2398. 2398 2398 Dragon King. Godly King. 2. All the sea monsters around Area 51 have disappeared. Are these sea monsters doing something else? It's very possible. If all the powerful sea monsters gathered in one place to attack, the time taken to block the formation would be much shorter. When more than 2,000 experts arrived at Area 51, they frowned when they saw that the surroundings were somewhat calm. The sudden appearance of a group of powerful sea monsters from the bottom of the sea was completely out of their expectations. It was not impossible for the sea monsters to gather and attack together. Once the sea monsters gathered together, the protective formation might not even be able to last for a day. Reinforcements must arrive within 10 hours or else we will be in big trouble. The experts looked at each other worriedly. Where did General Wang go? An expert couldn't help but ask. Our Dragon King will be here soon. Prime Minister Gue glanced at that expert and said indifferently, Commander Duan, we must make preparations first. We can't let him escape directly. At the front, the Swordmaster of the Sword Domain, the Supreme Commander, the Elders of the Land of Combat Arts, Commander Xian, Commander Duan, and the others were at the front. The Sword Domain Swordmaster glanced at Commander Duan and transmitted his voice indifferently. Don't worry. Commander Duan moved his palm confidently. A ring flashed and disappeared. The Sword Domain Swordmaster smiled and nodded his head. But at this moment, Wang Xian's figure appeared. His gaze swept across everyone and the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. Commander Xian, may I know why so many people have come to look for me? Wang Xian moved and arrived in front of Commander Xian and the rest. General Wang, there are indeed some matters. This. But Commander Xian revealed an embarrassed expression as he spoke. However, before he could finish his sentence, a confinement circle appeared above Wang Xian's head in an instant. It was emitting the light of confinement. Ha! Commander Xian's expression changed as he looked to the side coldly. Wang Xian also raised his eyebrows and looked at the confinement circle above his head. His eyes were sparkling as they landed on the commander of the city in the sky. General Wang, we have offended you. We have no choice but to do so. At this moment, the Sword Master of the Sword Domain gestured to the people behind him. In an instant, he appeared behind Wang Xian and completely surrounded him. 10 peak Master of God level experts and hundreds of Master of God level 8 and above experts were locked onto Wang Xian. City in the sky, Sword Domain, what are you guys trying to do? Commander Xian growled with a gloomy face. The soldiers of the Xian Heaven Domain also stared at them coldly. Commander Xian, let's talk about this. We are also doing this for the humans of the Tianzi continent. Furthermore, we didn't make a move. Commander Duan said with a smile. He looked at Wang Xian and the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. Oh, just say what you have to say. Wang Xian smiled as he swept his gaze across the Sword Domain and the people from Sky City. Today, the Tianzi continent has encountered the greatest crisis in history. 7 immortal godly monarchs are fighting against 4 godly monarchs. Lord Xian Tianzi is fighting against 4 godly monarchs at the same time and is in danger. Now, our land is about to be breached. Now we have to ask for reinforcements from other forces. And if we want to ask for reinforcements from other divine kings, we have to make some sacrifices. For the sake of the hundreds of billions of people in the Tianzi continent, what's a little sacrifice? Of course, General Wang, you don't have to worry. We are not asking you to sacrifice yourself, but we want an array formation in your hands. You should be clear about this array formation, General Wang. Commander Duan said with a smile. General Wang, for the sake of the entire human race in the Tianzi continent, please hand over the formation. We will naturally be grateful to you. The Sword Realm Swordmaster echoed indifferently from the side. Hee, city in the sky, you guys are really willing to do anything to obtain this formation. I have already killed 2 peak stage godly state experts in your city in the sky. Why are you still thinking about this formation now? Wang Xian looked at Commander Duan and said with a smile. What? There's such a thing? When the surrounding experts heard Wang Xian's words, they were stunned. However, when they recalled what happened not long ago, some of the experts had some guesses in their hearts. General Wang, this time the formation is not for us, but for the Heaven Beast Corporation. After the formation is given to them, the Heaven Beast Corporation is willing to send the immortal godly king to support us. I hope General Wang can make a sacrifice to save our Tianzi continent. Everyone in the Tianzi continent will be grateful to you. Commander Duan stared at Wang Xian with a cold expression and said, Hee, why don't you guys sacrifice yourselves then? I'm not from the Tianzi continent. It's enough for me to do this. Wang Xian was still smiling as he spoke to him. General Wang, please don't force us. If saving the Tianzi continent requires us to sacrifice ourselves, we will definitely not frown. However, the one who can save the Tianzi continent now is the formation in General Wang's hands. If General Wang doesn't agree, we will do something overboard for the sake of the entire Tianzi continent. However, all of this is for the sake of the humans of the Tianzi continent. Commander Duan raised his head slightly and said coldly, Commander Duan is right. General Wang, it's just a formation. Our Tianzi continent will give you some compensation. The Swordmaster of the Sword Domain chimed in from the side. General Wang, there's nothing we can do. A group of people from the Sword Domain and the City in the Sky stared at Wang Xian and followed suit. Haha, Commander Duan sure knows how to talk. If you are willing to sacrifice yourself to save the Tianzi continent, and this Sword Master from the Sword Domain, I will give you a chance to commit suicide immediately. I will take out the formation immediately. Wang Xian's gaze swept across them as he laughed out loud. Ha! Wang Xian's words stunned Commander Duan and the Sword Master from the Sword Domain. Their expressions changed slightly. The rest of the experts were stunned as well. They never expected Wang Xian to say such words. What? I'm not from your Tianzi continent. It's already good enough for me to help you guard it. Now that I've taken out a treasure that can save the Tianzi continent, you guys are willing to sacrifice yourself just now. In that case, you guys can sacrifice yourselves for the Tianzi continent. Wang Xian stared at the two of them with a mocking expression. That's fine. After all, General Wang has already made such a great contribution to the Tianzi continent. Commander Duan and the Sword Master have also agreed, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. When Commander Xian heard Wang Xian's suggestion, he naturally had no objections. Hee, I have no objections either. After this calamity, Commander Duan and the Sword Master will be the great heroes of the entire human race in the Tianzi continent. The elders of the land of combat nodded in agreement. The Supreme Commander's expression changed when he saw this situation. He looked at Commander Duan and Sword Master. Chapter 2399 2399 2399 Dragon King. Godly King. 3. The atmosphere in Zone 51 of the Wall of Protection was a little strange. Commander Duan of Sky City, Sword Domain, and Sword Master said that if they could save the entire human race, they were willing to sacrifice themselves. However, now that General Wang said that they were committing suicide, I'll take out the array formation directly. It was completely putting Commander Duan and Sword Master on fire. Especially the experts from the Shen Heaven Domain, the place of battle techniques, who were staring at the two of them mockingly. Wang Xian, don't go overboard. Now, as long as you take out the formation, you will be able to save the Tianzi continent. You are deliberately trying to kill us. Commander Duan saw the gazes around him and his expression changed drastically. He glared at Wang Xian coldly and shouted, "General Wang, are you trying to kill us on purpose?" The swordmaster was also embarrassed as he stared at Wang Xian with a sinister look. "What? Didn't you say that you are willing to sacrifice yourselves for the sake of the Tianzi continent? You should sacrifice yourselves now. In the future, the entire Tianzi continent will know that you are the heroes of mankind and will be remembered forever." Wang Xian looked at the two of them indifferently and said with a smile, "General Wang, don't go overboard. You are deliberately trying to kill our swordmaster. Hand over the formation immediately. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite." "That's right. The Sky God King has also said that if you don't take it out and kill us directly, I advise you to hand it over sensibly." The generals and experts from the sword domain and the city in the sky immediately took a step forward and stared at Wang Xian coldly. "Humph." The sword master's face was ice cold. With a move of his arm, a sharp sword appeared in his hand. Waves of killing intent condensed from his body. "Sky City, Sword Domain, what are you guys trying to do?" Commander Xian shouted with an ice-cold face. The atmosphere instantly froze. What happened?" From the surrounding positions, the sergeants looked over in shock. There were also many experts looking over in shock. "Everyone, let's have a good talk," the Supreme Commander said helplessly as he stretched out his hand. Sword Domain. Wang Xian took a glance at the swordmaster of the Sword Domain. A hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes. "Commander Xian and the Battle Tactics clan, don't interfere. I have already stated the conditions. I would like to see who would disagree. I would like to see if you have the right to force me to hand over the formation." Wang Xian then gestured to the experts from the Shen Heaven Domain and the Land of Martial Arts. He stared at the Sword Domain and the people from the city in the sky and said coldly, "Haha, if you refuse a toast you will be forced to drink a forfeit. Wang Xian, I think you are courting death." All right. Then we will fulfill your wish. Experts from the city in the sky, get ready." Commander Duan laughed out loud when he heard his words. His face was cold as he shouted out loud, "Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh." As soon as he finished his words, a weapon appeared in the hands of all the experts of Sky City. They stared at Wang Xian with murderous intent. "All the experts of the Sword Domain, get ready. I'd like to see how a Dragon Palace army is qualified to go against us." The Sword Master growled with a murderous look on his face. "It's the Sword Master." All the experts shouted and held their sharp swords in their hands. There were more than 1,000 experts above rank 8 God Lords in the Sword Domain in Sky City. Among them there were 30 peak Eternal God Lords. Such experts could last 5 or 6 minutes in front of the God King. "Sigh this. General Wang." The Supreme Commander had a helpless look on his face when he saw this scene. Although he was the Supreme Commander of the Federation, he could not waver in the decisions and actions of the Sword Domain and the city in the sky. To put it bluntly, the other party could totally ignore him. Especially now that even Wang Xian had said so, he was even less qualified to give orders. "Brother Wang." Chief Xian looked at Wang Xian with some worry and shouted, "Very good." The city in the sky of the Sword Domain is courting death. Wang Xian shook his head at Chief Xian and the rest. His gaze swept across the Sword Domain and everyone in the city in the sky. Gradually, a killing intent surged from his body. "Haha, are we courting death? Then you have the right to kill us too. Wang Xian, I advise you to hand over the formation immediately so that you won't suffer. But if you don't want to hand it over, we will make you talk." Commander Duan of the city in the sky laughed out loud as he stared at Wang Xian with disdain. Why would they be afraid of a Wang Xian when they had 30 peak stage Divine Lord experts? Even if they were to include his entire Dragon Palace army, they wouldn't put him in their eyes at all. "You don't know what's good for you." The Sword Master spat out these 4 words coldly as well. "This General Wang is a little impulsive. There are so many experts in the Sword Domain and the city in the sky. Even if the entire Dragon Palace army were to join forces, they would not be a match for them. What is General Wang thinking? This might be troublesome." When the experts from the Shen Heaven Domain, the Land of Combat Arts, and even the Federation saw this scene, they frowned. They did not understand why Wang Xian insisted on fighting them. This was a battle on a completely different level. There were too many experts from the city in the sky and the Sword Domain. Even if the Dragon Palace army joined in, they wouldn't be a match for them. "Very good. Wang Xian looked at everyone from the two major forces and ignored the discussions around him. A smile appeared on his face. "You're courting death. I'll grant you your wish." As he spoke, his body trembled slightly. A vast and mighty aura charged towards the surroundings. Crack, crack, crack. In an instant, resplendent seven-colored fragments shot out from his body. The fragments surrounded the surroundings at a terrifying speed. In less than a second, everything within a radius of more than 10,000 kilometers was completely surrounded by the seven-colored fragments. A seven-colored space appeared. At this moment, Wang Xian's figure was slowly floating in the void. He stared coldly at all the experts from the city in the sky and the sword domain who were surrounding him. At this moment, everyone could feel a terrifying pressure. Cough, cough, cough. At this moment, everyone was stunned. They stared blankly at the vast figure floating in the sky and the dense physical laws around them. All the experts from the sword domain held their long swords in a daze. At this moment, their long swords were trembling. All the experts in the city in the sky trembled. Some of them were stunned and couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. What was going on? What the hell was going on? This, General Wang. This is the power of the immortal God King. This is the immortal God King's law. Commander Xian opened his mouth slightly. His face was also filled with disbelief. They looked at the sealed space around them in disbelief. They looked at the high and mighty Wang Xian. That was the power of the godly king. Godly King General Wang is the godly king. He is actually the immortal godly king. At this moment, the highest commander could not help but exclaim. His face was also filled with disbelief. Who would have thought that General Wang was actually the immortal godly king? Dragon King God King. Chapter 2400. 2400 Dragon Kings. Godly Kings. 4. What happened in Area 51? How could there be substantial laws? Hiss, what the hell is going on? All the experts of our Tianzi continent have come here. What happened? Outside the protective wall, when everyone saw the rainbow-colored law space rising up, it also attracted everyone's attention. The surrounding areas looked at the terrifying laws, and their pupils constricted. Many eternal god lords hesitated for a moment, then quickly flew over. Not long ago they had heard angry shouts from this side. Now that such a terrifying law domain had risen up, many people on the wall of protection were astonished. No, this is impossible, this is an illusion array, this is an array illusion array. Just as the many warriors on the wall were flying over to Area 51, within the law space, Commander Duan looked around in disbelief and roared loudly. That's right, how can an undying god emperor break through so easily? He's obviously a pinnacle god lord. Illusion, everything is an illusion. Sword Domain Master roared with bloodshot eyes. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. How could they believe it? Their group was going against an undying. Even though their Sky City and Sword Domain combined were strong, against an undying they were nothing. Their provocation just now was no different from sending themselves to their deaths. All of you are unfortunate. I have just advanced to the Immortal King level. Therefore, I will use all of you to announce my advancement. Wang Xian swept his gaze across them. An incomparably terrifying dragon's might engulfed them. In an instant, the faces of all the level 8 masters of the Sword Domain and Sky City who were targeted instantly turned pale. Large mouthfuls of blood were spat out from their mouths. Their faces were filled with horror and endless despair. They looked up at Wang Xian's vast body in horror. No, don't kill us. Commander, save us. Sword Master, save us. Terrified cries for help rang out from their mouths one after another. Stop immediately. General Wang, our Sky Celestial King has stepped into the Celestial King realm for hundreds of thousands of years. If you dare to kill our Sky City's masters, our Celestial King will not let you off. Stop, Dragon King. Let's talk things out. For the sake of the Sword Celestial King, give us a chance. Commander Duan and the Sword Master of Sky City were horrified. They immediately roared loudly. You brought this on yourself. Wang Xian's gaze swept past them. His eyes were filled with disdain. Bang, bang, bang. In the next moment, all the Eternal Lord level 8 experts died instantly. At the same time, Wang Xian moved his arm. One by one, the seemingly corporeal law turned into a huge dragon claw and attacked all of them directly. Oh no! When everyone in the city in the sky and the sword domain saw Wang Xian's murderous intent, their faces turned pale instantly. Run, run, run. Commander Duan of the city in the sky shouted with a face full of horror. Wang Wang. Some people wanted to directly flee back to their eternal god countries, but the God King law barriers were not something they could break. All the experts could not even sense their eternal god countries. Ka ka ka. Ping ping ping. At this time, the Dragon Claws attacked over 100 peak God Lord rank 9 God Lord experts. Don't. Some level 9 God Lords felt the destructive power coming from the Dragon Claw and shouted in fear. Bang, bang, bang. The Dragon Claw swept over, and even the level 9 Eternal God Lord was instantly killed by the terrifying power, leaving only a corpse. Commander, save us. We are the heroes of the humans of the Tianzi continent. A general of the sword domain couldn't help but beg the Supreme Commander for mercy. This? The Supreme Commander opened his mouth and showed a hesitant expression. General Wang, Sir Godly King, they. The Supreme Commander opened his mouth and shouted. Are godly kings disgraceful? Wang Xian glanced at him and said indifferently. The Supreme Commander's expression changed slightly and he shook his head. Dragon King, our godly kings of sword and sky are veteran godly kings who have advanced for hundreds of thousands of years. If you destroy all of us today, Sir Godly King will definitely not let you off. You can't afford to offend 2 veteran godly monarchs. Dragon King, it's our fault today. Let us off. The Swordmaster's expression changed drastically as he roared loudly. Hee, now you know that I'll let you off. Everyone in Sky City must die. Your sword domain is also courting death. Wang Xian's face was filled with a sinister look as he waved his dragon claws and continued to attack. The people from the city in the sky, even if they didn't come to find trouble with him today, he would still kill them. As for the people from the sword domain, they were simply courting death. Just now, they had arrogantly said that they wanted to kill him, and they even dared to use their sharp swords to kill him. If they didn't die, who would? Resist and resist. There are so many of us. He has just advanced to the King God realm. It's not like he's invincible. Commander Duan of Sky City felt Wang Xian's determination to kill him. He roared with a crazed look on his face. Attack. If he dares to kill us, we, the godly monarch of swords, will avenge us. The Swordmaster's face was also filled with embarrassment. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared. Since the other party did not let them off, they could only give it their all. It was not impossible for them to fight against an expert who had just advanced to the godly monarch level with their strength. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, waves of terrifying sword light and terrifying light energy attacked Wang Xian's dragon claw. Go. This? Are they a match for the God King? A general of the Federation gulped and looked at the scene in front of him with a shocked expression. The sword domain and all the top-tier combat powers of Sky City had joined forces to fight against a newly advanced Undying God King. The Undying Emperor was something they could fight against. Even if General Wang has just advanced to Undying Emperor, he's still not someone they can fight against. This time, the people from Sky City and the sword domain are courting death. Commander Shen said coldly. They're just courting death. If we had a good discussion, there wouldn't be any problems. They had to use force. What's more, even if we don't have any solutions, and General Wang has also advanced to the Eternal God Lord level, he alone can help us defend the wall. The elder of the fighting clan beside him also said indifferently. That's right. With General Wang around, we can defend the front line of the natural selection continent without requesting any help. The Supreme Commander also sighed slightly. He looked forward and didn't know whether he was rejoicing or furious. At this time, the Dragon King was determined to kill all the opponents. Who dared to stop him? Who had the strength to stop him? The masters of the city in the sky were finished. So were all the masters of the sword domain. Chapter 2401 2401 2401 Dragon King. Godly King. 5. Boom, boom, boom. In the nomological space of Area 51, a series of rumbling sounds could be heard. In the surroundings, the Shen Heaven domain, the land of battle techniques, and the experts from the Federation were scattered around. They were looking at the battle in front of them with shock and awe. It was more like a group of ants challenging the godly king who was standing high above them. Wang Xian hovered in the air and waved his palms slightly. Below him, a huge law palm was attacking the experts from the famous sword domain and the city in the sky. 30 experts at the peak of the godly monarch tried their best to resist, but they couldn't do anything in front of Wang Xian. Their attacks landed in front of Wang Xian and were directly blocked by the powerful law power without causing any ripples. Ah, our God King will avenge us. Dragon King, just you wait, just you wait. After killing over a dozen peak God Lord powerhouses, the experts from Sky City and the Sword Domain started to despair. They all let out unresigned roars. Especially the experts from the Sword Domain, they stared angrily at their Sword Master. It was all because of this fellow. If you don't stand out, how could we be killed? How could the Sword Domain provoke an immortal godly king powerhouse? They died with grievance. I will kill him in the city in the sky. I will also kill the Sword Domain Sword God King. Wang Xian heard their roars and his face was filled with a cold light. The Sky God King wanted to kill him? Then let's see who would kill who. When the experts from the Sword Domain and the city in the sky heard Wang Xian's shameless words, their faces became even more desperate. It seemed that the other party was going to kill them completely. The experts from the Federation's Shen Heaven Domain and the Land of Battle Techniques pretended that they didn't hear what he said. However, the few experts from the Shen Heaven Domain who had some understanding of Wang Xian were extremely shocked in their hearts. They remembered that back then Wang Xian only had the combat strength of a level 8 Divine Lord. How long had it been since he became an immortal godly king? He was in existence on the same level as their Shen Tianzi godly king. Boom. At this moment, Wang Xian's palms slammed down heavily on the Sword Master and Commander Duan, suppressing them firmly on the ground. The two of them had lost all signs of life. They died in despair and unwillingness. Who would have thought that Wang Xian would suddenly advance to the immortal king realm? The heavens were going to kill them. When the rest of the people saw the last two Sword Masters and Commander Duan being killed and saw the more than 1,000 corpses on the ground, they took a deep breath. They looked at the figure hovering in the sky, and their faces were filled with awe. What's going on inside? Why did such a terrifying material law suddenly appear in Area 51? Is it a sea monster rushing over? Could it be that the experts of Sky City are looking for trouble with General Wang? At this moment, nearly 10 million people were gathered around the lost space in Area 51, which had a circumference of more than 10,000 kilometers, and they were discussing with shocked faces. How can it be that our Sky City is causing trouble for General Wang? If our Sky City really wants to cause trouble for General Wang, we will be able to destroy General Wang and his army in less than 3 minutes. Some people from Sky City heard others guessing their actions and said directly with some displeasure. That might not be the case. Everyone knows how many peak stage God Lord sea monsters General Wang has led his disciples to destroy. An expert from the mysterious sky territory mocked coldly. Many people were very dissatisfied with the actions of the general from the 50th region of Sky City. Naturally, they also had some opinions about the entire Sky City. Our Sky City will not kill someone who is not on the same level as us at this juncture. If you want to kill General Wang, you can kill him at any time after the calamity ends. The Sky City warrior heard it and said coldly, "The law space is disappearing. This space is about to disappear. What's going on in there?" Some people stared at the center of the law space. The law space slowly disappeared and a vast silhouette appeared in everyone's sight. Seeing that silhouette, everyone couldn't help but feel a powerful pressure. Greetings, Dragon King. Congratulations, General, on advancing to the Undying God King realm. The entire space slowly appeared in everyone's sight, but at this time, the highest commander's voice suddenly sounded. Greetings, Dragon King. Congratulations, General, on advancing to the Undying God King realm. Following that, respectful voices sounded. The sudden voice caused everyone around to reveal shocked expressions. They looked over and all the experts from the mysterious Sky Domain, Battle Techniques Land, and the Federation half knelt on the ground and bowed. This General Wang has advanced to the Undying Godly Monarch realm. My God, General Wang has become a godly monarch. My God, General Wang has advanced to a godly monarch. Our Tianzhe continent has another godly monarch. Everyone widened their eyes, their faces filled with surprise and excitement. Look at the corpses on the ground. They are the corpses of all the experts from the Sky City and the Sword Domain. At this moment, a shocked exclamation came from an expert's mouth. He pointed at the ground and shouted in shock. What? Oh my God. It's the corpses of all the experts from the Sword Domain and the Sky City. Oh my God. What's going on? Everyone's bodies trembled violently. Those were experts from the Sword Domain and Sky City, and they were peak experts above the 8th level of a godlord. These were the pillars of the entire Sword Domain and Sky City, and now they were actually killed. The experts from the Sky City and the Sword Domain offended the Dragon King and were killed by the Dragon King. All the citizens of the Tianzi continent immediately pay their respects to the Dragon King. At this moment, the Supreme Commander swept his gaze across everyone around him and said in a deep voice. Now, the safety of the entire wall of protection and the entire Tianzi continent depended on Wuxia. Naturally, he had to curry favor with him at this moment. He did not want the Dragon King to abandon them and leave at this moment. After all, they were here to ask the Dragon King to hand over that powerful array formation. Greetings, Dragon King. Greetings, Dragon King. Everyone from the Federation, the people from the Mystic Heaven Domain and the Land of Combat Techniques were the first to react. They immediately half-knelt on the ground and shouted respectfully. A godly monarch was worthy of everyone's great respect. Furthermore, this godly monarch might be their last hope. No, you actually dared to kill people from our Sky City. Our Sky Godly Monarch will not let you off. The powerhouse who said that the Sky City wanted to kill General Wang with ease just a moment ago could not help but retreat when he saw the current scene. He roared angrily in a low voice. The eyes of many other powerhouses from the Sky City and the Sword Domain flickered as their expressions kept changing. When Wuxia saw the powerhouse from the Sky City, disdain appeared on his face. He grunted softly. At the same time, waves of terrifying pressure pressed down on all the experts from the city in the sky. In an instant, thousands of corpses fell to the ground. Chapter 2402. 2402-2402 stood guard. Bang bang bang. The sound of bodies colliding with the ground seemed to crash into everyone's ears. This sound directly smashed into the hearts of everyone in Sky City and the Sword Domain. Especially the people of Sky City, when they saw their experts instantly killed, their faces were filled with paleness and cold sweat. They looked at this scene in horror and felt their scalps go numb. That General King, Godly King and Dragon King had actually killed so many of their experts in an instant. Those godly master experts didn't even have the ability to resist and were instantly killed. This terrifying strength made people despair. Greetings, Dragon King. Greetings, Dragon King. The bodies of the people from the Sword Domain and Sky City trembled as they hurriedly knelt on the ground and shouted loudly. They lowered their heads and propped their hands on the ground as if they were prostrating. Their faces were filled with horror. Wuxia's gaze swept across them. His face was filled with indifference. I will clear the sea monsters in front of the wall of protection. The catastrophe this time should be over very soon. He landed on the ground and said to the Supreme Commander and the rest. All right. Thank you, General Wang, for your help. The Supreme Commander said to Wuxia excitedly. The rest of the people were extremely excited when they heard what Wuxia said. They were really afraid that Wuxia would leave immediately because of the matter just now. Now, as long as Wuxia was willing to help, it would be easy for a godly king to guard this place and clean up the sea monsters here at the protective wall. Thank you for your help, General Wang. Our Tianzi continent is eternally grateful. The rest of the experts also quickly cupped their hands to express their gratitude. No need. Wuxia shook his head and swept his gaze around. With a wave of his arm, he collected all the corpses. There were 30 peak stage Eternal Masters and more than 1,000 Eternal Masters above level 8. There were also a few thousand Eternal Masters. Just these corpses were enough for the Dragon Palace to increase the combat strength of 3 immortal godly monarchs. Adding Ao Xingmu and himself, that was the combat strength of 4 immortal godly monarchs. This was not counting the sea monsters in front of the wall of protection. If that was included, the strength of the Dragon Palace would undergo a terrifying qualitative change. Perhaps by then the strength of the Dragon Palace could rival the entire Tianzi continent. With this thought in mind, Wuxia moved his body and immediately came to the top of the city wall in Area 51. All members of the Dragon Palace, return to the Dragon Palace to upgrade. Ao Yao, you guys should return as well. Wang Xian ordered the members of the Dragon Palace. It's the Dragon King. All the members of the Dragon Palace nodded their heads. Supreme Commander, send someone to help me keep an eye on the sea monsters in front of the wall of protection. If they show signs of escaping, let me know. Wang Xian said to the Supreme Commander. It's the Dragon King. The Supreme Commander immediately nodded his head. Bus. Wang Xian nodded his head and flew towards Area 58 in a flash. He had already cleared the sea monsters here. So after General Wang advanced to the Godly King level, he started to clear the sea monsters in the surroundings. No wonder all the sea monsters in Area 51 and the surrounding areas have disappeared. When everyone saw Wang Xian's back disappearing, one of the generals could not help but look at the ocean on the left. At this moment, the ocean on the left was a few million kilometers away. It was already calm and there was not a single sea monster. Initially, they were speculating if the sea monsters were up to something. Now, it seemed that the sea monsters here had been eliminated. That's right. We are still researching how to request for reinforcements. General Wang, who is in the ocean, should be a little dumbfounded if he knew about this. I'm afraid that after a few more hours of discussion, the sea monsters have already been cleared. Xianchen said mockingly. That's true, however with General Wang here, this disaster will pass without any accidents. A general said he couldn't help but let out a huge breath. That's right, this disaster will be able to pass it very quickly. The rest of the group also got excited, smiling. General Wang has advanced to Undying, defending the wall of protection for our Tianzhe continent, helping us get through this disaster. Congratulations to our Tianzhe continent, congratulations to General Wang. The highest commander's body moved, floating in the air, he roared loudly. His voice resounded throughout the wall of protection. When the rest of the people who hadn't arrived heard his words, they were all stunned, they couldn't help but get excited. General Wang has actually broken through to the Undying Emperor realm, he's too powerful, haha, our Tianzhe continent is saved. He's about to win. General Wang was very powerful in the beginning, he killed many pinnacle godlord sea monsters. Now he's actually broken through to the Undying Emperor realm, long live. Congratulations General Wang. At the same time for our Tianzhe continent, we have a huge chance of surviving this disaster. According to the latest news, General Wang is killing sea monsters at a rapid pace. Upon hearing the voice of the highest commander, everyone's faces revealed an extremely excited look. At the same time, some news was also transmitted over. Everyone's faces revealed an extremely excited look. While everyone was cheering on the wall of protection, Wang Xian was killing sea monsters at a rapid pace at the bottom of the sea. In order to prevent him from killing too many sea monsters and preventing them from escaping, Wang Xian had unleashed his full strength. He was killing sea monsters one by one at a terrifying speed. There were 500 to 600 level 8 Divine Lord level 8 devouring netherworld sea monsters in a region. After clearing more than a dozen regions, there were around 50 to 60 of them. Among them, there were more than 20 sea monsters at the peak of the Eternal Divine Lord level. A large number of sea monsters' corpses entered the Dragon Palace. With the addition of the corpses from the beginning, the dragon blood in the dragon transformation pool was almost full. The dragon transformation pool that was hundreds of kilometers long was almost full. What kind of concept was this? One by one, the members of the Dragon Palace entered the dragon transformation pool. The improvement of their realms was as simple as drinking cold water. Now, as long as Wang Xian wanted to, all 150,000 to 60,000 members of the Dragon Palace could step into the Eternal Divine Lord level. However, the main focus of the Dragon Palace was to improve their high-end combat strength. After this, the strength of the Dragon Palace can crush any force in the Tianzhe continent. In just 15 minutes, Wang Xian cleared out all the areas beyond Area 51. His body moved and he teleported rapidly towards Area 50. He did not hide anything. Facing the hundreds of millions of sea monsters in front of him, he floated directly on the surface of the sea. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of substantial laws sealed off an area of more than 10,000 kilometers. In the entire area, all the sea monsters were captured in one go. More than 10,000 kilometers. Wang Xian did not even need a minute. In less than a minute, he immediately changed to another place. In front of each region, everyone saw the terrifying scene of Wang Xian. Their faces were filled with shock and awe. This was the strength of the immortal God King, and this was the strength of General Wang. One person facing billions of sea monsters. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.